Audio on. Here we go. We are ready to go, sir.
Good evening, I will call this select board meeting to order.
I will do the same for the budget committee.
Thank you for joining me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks everyone for being here this evening, and apologize for calling it off on Monday.
You don't have to, or better.
Yeah, thank you for that, actually.
I ate a little crow because I stopped in the office on the way home from work, and I was in here and when I said, no, we're fine. An hour later, I heard back home and I said, no, I'm not fine.
Good call.
Okay, tonight we're gonna start off with the Midcoast Conservancy requests, and we're gonna go to some revisiting and finish up some items that we did not get to yet. And take a look at where it takes it from there, and hopefully we can get through this and not be back here on Monday, but I'll take on. Midcoast Conservancy, we have a rep here. Hi.
Kristen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I appreciate me going first because my husband's at the Narrows and so I don't want him to be there too long. Well, I'm on tape, I should have said that. So I thought I'd just if I could take 5-10 minutes and kind of give an overview, and hopefully that answers some of the past questions. And then if you have additional questions at the end, does that sound okay? I don't want to take up too much I know meeting time is valuable. So just as an overview again, Midcoast Conservancy is a conservation organization, mission to protect and restore vital lands and waters in Midcoast, Maine. So our operating budget is about 1.6 million. A majority of that is our personnel expenses. We have 12 employees. We grow a little bit in seasonal for water quality people. And we commit to providing a living wage, affordable health care, and we do match retirement for our employees. So we don't have high executive salaries. I can attest to that. We have a co-leadership model, which allowed us to sort of split up those, executive roles. So our assets are primarily land holdings, and we have offices, one in Waldoboro. The trust property that we hold is legally, there's a accounting legal category of restricted, like for example, Land for Maine's Future gave us money to buy a property that's legally restricted, and is on the books as such. But if you look at our financial statements, we'd have a really large portion of that would say unrestricted trust property. It's technically unrestricted. Our mission is to conserve and hold that property for the greater good. It's not like it's just, for sale or an unrestricted asset. So that's like a little clarity I thought might help. We have an endowment of about 1.7 million. We draw on that, every year at a rolling average of 4% to help us with our operating budget. It's honestly too small for our needs. It doesn't cover nearly what we would actually need to steward our acreage. We have over 15,000 acres in the mid-coast. We would need probably 6 times that amount of endowment to even keep our stewardship work, fully funded. I know there was a question about sort of assets. If you look at note N in our financial statements, which is of assets available to meet cash needs, that's kind of really that's really the only pot of money we have that's, saved for operating budget. And end of June 2024, it was 260,000. So that's barely 2 or 3 months, operating budget. So we're kind of also living on a shoestring, living month to month in a way. Land conservation, of course, is a big part of our work. And in addition to the ecological services that they provide, groundwater, carbon, wildlife habitat, we maintain many public preserves, and there are a lot in Waldoboro. And of course, I think Morgan mentioned this when she was here, they provide access to recreation, nature, hunting, fishing, subsistence, foraging, and things like that. So in Waldoboro, I think we have about 1,700 acres. And additionally, through easements, which are privately held acres, but we are conserving them. They're often like, very high ecological value things that people put on easements so that there'll be no further development on those parcels, but people still own them and pay taxes. I know there's probably a reduction in the amount of taxes. I don't know exactly what that is, but of those 2,200 acres easements, there's only about 1,200 acres in Waldoboro that are actually not currently accessible by the public. So the majority of the easement lands in Waldoboro are accessible.
I'm sorry, how many did you say?
About 1,200 acres are not accessible, so
Of the
of
easements?
the 2,200 acres in easements. And then I think there's a question about focus areas. So we have done a study recently. We have a really great tool that kind of overlays ecological priority areas, whether that's habitat connectivity, aquatic connectivity, things where we're corridors, where we're trying to kind of protect areas where wildlife, as the climate warms, might need to move north. And so we are focused in on some areas, and the one in Waldoboro particularly is Three Brooks. Our focus area is about 5,500 acres, and we currently conserve 1,300 of that, and we are looking, we would hope to conserve more of that. It's as Morgan said before, it's part of a 7,000 acre undeveloped parcel, which is the largest intact habitat on any peninsula from Kittery to Belfast. So it's a pretty special place. And then we also have a couple other focus areas in Waldoboro, but all of this, we can't say like, we're going to protect this many acres. It's all up to landowners. It's all up to opportunity, what might come up. And then, so I don't think we have any, I think I'm misspeaking, but I don't think we have any like active projects in the Three Brooks focus area. Like we might be talking to some people, but there's nothing like, we're gonna close on this many acres in this many years. And even when you say that, half the time it takes 3 times the amount of time that you thought, or tomorrow somebody could come and say, we want to donate this whole parcel to you. So it's hard to know or estimate. But I just wanted to mention, a colleague of mine found a study done in 2023 by Abigail Bennett at the at University of Maine in partnership with the Municipal Budget and Conservation Working Group. And their conclusion, and I just got this, so I haven't read the whole thing, but the conclusion was that there are small effects of land conservation on tax bill increases. So that was their conclusion, that an average of 1% increase in conserved acres in a town, and this was done in Maine, looking at Maine towns, 1% increase in those acres in a town is associated with an average tax bill increase of $1 or less. And so, if Waldoboro is 46,000 acres and Midcoast currently protects maybe about 8% of those acres, that's maybe that might be 8% adult, so that's maybe $8 in people's tax bills. So it's, we're hoping that in the contrast to developing those acres and then needing service and water and school and towns and roads, and that we're hoping that the benefit to all in terms of rural character or water protection, groundwater protection, land protection, that that can be worth it to the people of Waldoboro. So we started this, we've had partnerships with 3 towns for many, many years, Noblesboro, Newcastle, and Jefferson. And we thought that we would start going to all the towns in our service area where we provide services to ask for municipal funding for that reason, because we feel like it's a benefit for all. And like, I know you guys are trying to make your budget and we are trying to do the same thing. And so, we thought we'd ask. Whitefield gave us our request at their town meeting a couple weekends ago. I was there. So Basically, our request is based on mostly on the public preserves that we maintain and have have infrastructure on, have trails that we want to make public and safe. We also might take into account our school program, which I think we serve 5 elementary schools. And so that might be a piece of a request from other towns that we do that with. We're not currently doing that officially with Waldoboro, but so yeah, there are a lot of, and I will say that Gill Preserve's my personal favorite. It's a beautiful, beautiful preserve in Waldoboro, very special place. So in addition to those things, and that's kind of the basis of our request, I just noted some of the things that we've tried to help Waldoboro with is letters of support for the town for grant funding, assisted with the trail design at the Sylvania site, help with trail maintenance at the Waldoboro Town Forest, procured and released beetles at the town forest to combat the invasive hemlock woolly adelgid. I don't know if any of you know about that project. I guess these are predatory beetles. And we got them really cheap, so that was good. Got like, they were practically giving them away. They were raising them, so they had such a successful season. We procured a pro bono ecological surveyor for the Quarry Hill Farm. And that was a necessary step in moving forward with the Quarry Hill project to help increase recreational access in the town. Supported the conservation committee with maps and local knowledge. Provided some data to the river capacity study. Conducted free public educational events in town, like State of the Madomic, and Morgana, I know, has worked with Madomic Valley High School students in outdoor recreation and arts projects. So that's my quick overview, and I would be happy to answer questions.
I'm not gonna ask you a question, that's a couple quick comments. A couple concerning things is the other night when you were here before, well, Morgan was here, we talked about, question was asked about more properties going to the Conservancy, and comment was made, or the answer was, we'd like to take as much as we can get. Now, I think back to 45 years ago or so, I know I'm aging myself a little bit. High school, wanted to earn a little bit of money. Me and my buddy, we decided to go dig some clams. Went down the end of Dutch Neck, which is now Butter Point and Broad Cove East. We walked in and dug some clams. That easy. Then we really liked the fact that we had a little extra spending money, went down to the west side by the church there in West Waldoboro, walked down over the hill, dug some more clams. Then went over to the other side off 220 Friendship Road, walked in off Thomas's Hill and dug clams, and down behind Bob Butler's house and dug clams, and to the point where we could save up and get a skiff and go down river. So then we got a skiff and we were going down river as high school seniors, and we had juniors and seniors in high school. And we were noticing that back then you didn't see any houses along the river. Very few buildings along the river. My point is, had those properties been put into conservation back then, would we be able to walk in there and dig our clams? Probably, because the conservatory would have let us. But those houses that have been developed down Back Cove Road, along the west side, Broad Cove East, Butter Point, they wouldn't be there to provide us the tax base that we have right now, we enjoy. Now I'm thinking of a piece of property up in North Waldoboro, there was 60, 65, 70 acres of land. If that homeowner or that landowner decided to put that in conservation, those 13 houses that were put in the last 15, 20 years wouldn't be there right now to provide a tax base for this town. That's my biggest concern, is we're putting these properties into conservation and we're not getting a tax base. We say, well, they're landlocked properties, they don't need services. Well, I tell you what, if one of those properties catches fire, who's gonna go put it out? Our fire department. Or one of your hikers are out there walking through the properties and gets injured, and we have to send the ambulance and the EMS folks out there. Someone's gotta go get them, or you have to need police involvement, we've gotta go get them. So there is some services provided to these organizations. So that's my speech. Now,
Well, I agree that fire suppression would be a service that would cost the town something, but undeveloped land doesn't require much in the way of road maintenance or school, providing schools for people who live there. Developing Butter Point probably did a lot towards raising people's taxes on Dutch Neck because it raised values of all the development raises property values. And so I think you can look at it as conserved land saves the town taxpayers' money. And it provides access to for recreation and other benefits as Christie is enumerated. And not everyone is privileged to have a backyard that they can wander out and spend an afternoon or whatever in. And so I think the preserves in town, they tend to be at special places, which are really, really nice. But that preserves a public access. And that's part of the benefit of living in Waldoboro is we have these places to go to.
Evan?
You said that there was 1,200 acres was inaccessible. Where is that property? I mean, is it?
So it's I
is
don't
it
have,
Waldoboro.
Yeah.
Waldoboro is-
in Waldoboro, yes. Yeah, so we have,
So it doesn't benefit the people of Waldoboro. It's inaccessible.
that's an ecological benefit. Yeah, and those private landowners who have the easements on their property do pay taxes on their property. But it might be a different, if it's can't be developed land, it's probably at a different rate. I don't know exactly how that gets determined. And I would say we're not, and part of the focus area is that we are not looking to just say, oh, sure, we'll protect your 5 acres behind your expensive house, so you don't have to pay taxes on it, because you say you're not going to develop it. Like, that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to focus our efforts on important places that we.
It may not be what you're trying to do, that is a real effect. I own 120 acres, some of it's riverfront. It's not, plus it's farmland. It's not in tree growth. I do all the trail maintenance myself. I don't post the land. And people hunt on my land. I'm doing exactly what you do. But I'm paying the town. You're not, you're asking for money from the town.
Yeah, I do the same thing in Whitefield. I have an old fisherman trail and a brook and riverfront, and I have a trail and we allow access, and we've had some shenanigans there, but I'm, yeah.
Ruben had him.
There are, one, thank you for what you do. I personally see value in it. I also see value in a lot of the arguments coming over here, but beyond that, I question how much time we need to spend here debating this. This came in at an angle where this is going on the ballot because of how they got signatures, correct?
Correct.
So if anyone has an argument towards stopping that, that's not something we can do here. This is going to be better served in longer, more detailed per issue conversations outside of this group. I don't think we'll achieve much going on these issues aside from maybe upsetting ourselves a little bit.
But we are gonna vote on it, what our thoughts are, even though we're not gonna change the dollar value, but we can vote. Vote on it.
I guess what I'm saying poorly is whether you're pro this land conservation against it or you want adjustments made. This needs to be a longer continued conversation if you're gonna look at the issues on how this is built over Waldoboro.
You know, I agree too, and my concern is, I wanna know what the upper limit is. And as you alluded to, oh, we'll take all we can get. That's not a good answer. It's sort of anti-human. I mean, people live in homes. That's a good thing.
Well, I think I think it's focusing, right? It's focusing our efforts on places, we don't want the whole town of Waldoboro. It's focusing on certain ecological. Well, I would say that the 5,000 acre Three Brooks. If we could protect that whole area, we would try. But I mean, part of the reason why I'm here talking to you all is like, we all need to figure out what's best for all of us, right? And so we want to work with the town and like, there needs to be a place for people to live in. Where does development go and where, what areas of their town might you want to see protected? And like, that's our role. Like, that's where we feel like we can help.
Kelly?
I have a couple questions just to clarify some numbers. You said you have 15,000 acres in the mid-coast, 1,700 acres in Waldoboro, and then in addition to that, 2,200 acres on easement. Do I have those numbers right? Okay.
That's what Morgan gave me.
And then of the 2,200 acres that are that are easements, 1,200 of that. Did you say that's not accessible or it's not taxable? What?
It's Well, it's taxable by easement properties are taxed. Anybody who owns an easement on their property is still taxed. They
Okay.
pay the town taxes.
But they probably get some kind of.
They probably get some adjustment that
Okay.
I don't know
So
what that is.
My other thing I would like to offer, I don't think what they do is anti-human, and I don't think that conserving land is anti-human, and maybe that's not exactly what you meant, but humans survive on this planet if we protect some of it. If we develop all of it, won't be anything left. So I do just want to respectfully disagree with you on that. But I think that the point that folks are trying to make, and I think Ruben, you said it poorly, but you didn't. You said it absolutely correct. There's a lot that folks don't understand about this. And so my question to you is, would you be open to having those kinds of conversations that Ruben referred to so that folks can understand? Because this is going to be on the ballot, no matter how these two groups vote. But the voters are the ones who get to decide whether or not you get $6,000. And if there isn't some effort between now and the election day in June to educate them, you're probably not going to get the $6,000.
Right.
And there's an opportunity to create some goodwill, to create some awareness about what you do and to understand, because I don't fully understand everything that you do, how the tax implications are. There's so much about this I don't get. So if that's something you'd be willing to do, that means something to me.
I mean, part of the reason we got into request for municipal funding was not just for the dollars, like it's, when we talk about it, we haven't had enough conversations with the towns. And so that's where we're like, this is important. It's not just about the dollars. It's about like, we need to have regular conversations and, I'll be honest, we started asking for funding because we needed it so badly. And I'm just being honest. That's why we asked. But there's more to it. And I agree that we should.
Should a master plan ever been made?
I think in terms of land conservation, we feel like our focus areas for our whole service area is kind of our master plan. So like it focuses our efforts
Can you
on.
distribute that to us?
Oh, yeah, we have, on the website, you can go, I think it's called 30 by 30, and you can look at maps and you can look at overlays, you can look at, what we're evaluating property on in terms of like I said before, like habitat corridors, connectivity and those forested lands.
Yeah,
That's a property owner's choice, whether he or she wants to put their land into a conservation easement. So if someone does not agree with it, they certainly don't have to. Nice to let other people on the land to have access to it. But those people who want to I believe should have that right. If they are in their heart of hearts, they want to protect the land, protect the habitat, then. And to get a little bit of help on their taxes. It balances out. There's value, maybe not monetary value, but there's certainly great value in protecting our lands. The other thing is land trusts do a lot more than just easements. I worked in the district next door to us, and we had a wonderful relationship with two. They keep changing their names. But two land trusts in the Damascus area, and they worked with the schools. And they did probably more than any other group, including PTAs and all of that, for education, for being in the school, working with students, working with teachers, providing workshops, really excellent workshops. And that was ongoing all the time. So they have, I think there's great educational value to our children, to our teachers, to our future. So I don't see it as a money loss. So,
And just to clarify, like landowners can choose to put, you know, it's their choice to put an easement. But just if they came to us and said they want to put an easement, that doesn't mean we would say, great. Like, so we have criteria for lands that we would accept. We just wouldn't accept an easement on just
Just
because
because
somebody
someone
wanted to
wanted it.
do it. Yes.
there has to be a reason and
Yeah.
So that was my question is, what is the criteria? I think the work is great, but I also have concerns and it's state law. So I don't want to shoot the messenger of the conservancy, but some things, if you want to change it, it's going to be changed, I think, in the legislature. However, I just kind of interested in what the criteria is. I mean, if someone buys a, valuable piece of property on the river, is there a certain criteria? Do you how do you evaluate that property, whether or not, or can they do it on their own? I guess, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, for us, we have built a database. So this was a couple years ago and we brought everybody and every expert that we could find on ecological value and built a tool so that we can look at places and say like, okay, how many things does this, how many points does it score on being, old growth forest or whatever, just, and the connectivity and the proximity to maybe other protected lands to create corridors so wildlife can move, and not be cut off. So there's a lot to it and it's it's to the point where we invested in building it with a whole bunch of partners. And now it's like, you can, plug it in and like kind of see that it's a really effective tool for focusing your efforts, because we don't want to, just be sort of scattershot, just like protecting anything that just comes our way, because that's not our goal.
Just another question, of the 1,700 acres in Waldoboro. How much of that, if you know, how much of that is truly open to the public? Is all of that open to the public?
I think almost all of it is open to the public, but it doesn't mean that our lands are all open to the public. So that's like what I believe, that's what we own roughly in Waldoboro. It might not have infrastructure, and we're actually kind of trying to come up with a way to assess sort of levels of like what kind of infrastructure we have at a place. So, if we have a public preserve that we're trying to get, we have hundreds of visitors, and like you said, you've got hikers out there and you're gonna have to rescue them from they're getting lost. Well, then we feel like, okay, then we should be paying the town for, like, we don't have to pay for our office building either, but we do because we're a nonprofit. Legally, we don't have to, but we would do that. We would pay in lieu of taxes because we know we're used services. So like we're trying to really come up with a system for like kind of evaluating so that we can equitably pay, either do payments in lieu of taxes to towns. And I will be honest with you, it's not set now. Like we don't have it's a little bit like we're doing some things here and some things here, and we're just trying to do the best we can, but we need a better system, I think, to be equitable across all of our service towns. We pay a pretty hefty payment in lieu of taxes to Jefferson because of our Hidden Valley Nature Center, because it's really used by school groups. That's where we bring our 4th grade kids. We have some, overnight options there. We've had to use the services, we've had to have some rescues out there. So we absolutely want to do that. And that's part of like meeting with more towns and finding out what might work.
So 1,700 acres is open to the public.
Yeah, 1,700 acres open to public, whether or not it has like if parking lots and trails and signs, no, but we're not like saying you can't go here, yeah.
Well,
So just to give a sense of the magnitude of the money that we're talking about here as far as taxes go. On the 1,738.9 acres that the Conservancy owns in Waldoboro, the taxes that would be charged is $26,938.60. I got this information from Daryl the other day. And then the Conservancy does pay, I think, $1,346. So the net loss in revenue, tax revenue to the town for all the property that the Conservancy owns is $25,591.67.
An additional 45,158. That.
That
The,
would be the easements.
that's the easements
Right.
that is not paid,
But again, that is
Right.
that is the
right,
property owner's right
Right.
legally to do that
Right.
if the Conservancy deems that property
Correct.
fits their criteria.
correct,
But those properties under easement might, even if they weren't under easement, might be under other
they could be,
forest management or open space. Those tax reductions aren't necessarily only based on the Conservancy easements.
really good.
so. My concern that I expressed the other night has. It's up to the public whether they want to fund or not. My concern is. In the last 8 years that I've been here. There has been a very big lack of communication. And. A representative has appeared now, two representatives or three. For 2 times inside of a week. To talk to us because you requested $6,000. And the rest of the time. Quite frankly, we've invited people and and they haven't come. And part of what I feel is the responsibility of. Well, I'll take the heat for it. It's my responsibility. Is to make sure that. And I said this to Stephanie the day after the last meeting. Was. I don't know if it's a board issue, if it's a leadership issue, but I keep hearing the same thing when I talk to whoever the new director is or the group of directors or however you put it together is we're in transition. 8 years in transition. It's like, I feel like it's Groundhog Day. I do. I honestly do. And I guess the select board, when they're giving funds and the budget committee, I think part of this exercise, like I said, if you agree with the land trust or you don't, mine is, are we putting money where it should go? And I said this, and I know Stephanie heard me, and I even offered to come and talk to their board because somebody needs to hear that there is no communication. And I've heard it's going to get better. I've heard we were going to have water testing. I mean, I sat down with the director and, a lot of promises were made about we're going to do your water testing for you. And I don't know, maybe you can answer where the grant went,
Yeah, I think you mean the
C grant?
C grant. Yeah, so when Madomic Valley merged in beginning of 2019, there was just over $4,200 in C grant funds. And I held it for a while trying to figure out what exactly is this for. There was not good records from MVLT. And then I was told it's for water testing, and so we expended it through the end of 2023. And I think Tim reached out and told you that, Julie, in the fall of 2024, that we had used it for estuary testing.
So I just think that needed to have a conversation, because we had that was one of the first conversations I had with the new director of, hey, it's specifically DNA testing for the river when the clam flats get closed. If we have an issue down at the landing, that we can specifically use that. I just want everybody to understand I understand the arguments on both sides about land trust or not. My concern is about the relationship that the land trust has with the town. And although we appreciate, I think, the boots on the ground work, a lot more work at the leadership level has to be done, whether it be board or directors, to be part of and keep us informed. That's all.
Agree with that.
And I'm gonna blow Ellie's head off in a minute.
Give me a minute. Give me a minute.
I'm gonna agree with Ellie.
Whoa, holy, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting you to make me mad.
I agree. Since the land trust has left Waldoboro, we've been left in the dark. And people need to know. I was part of the land trust, helping them do a lot of stuff. And I know nothing since probably Julie's been here. And I'm probably a lot more cynical than
It's my first year. It's my first term. Give me time.
a lot more cynical than Kelly, but it's gonna be a no if we don't have more.
Yeah.
No voice at all, period. I mean, I have no interest in giving the land trust money.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, without any input or any information, you know, Kelly put it nicely. Not, I'm cynical that way. If somebody puts 110% in, I have no problem. But when you put 0% in, you're not gonna get nothing out of it.
We are, what, over 8 years out from our original merger? And with the goal of that we could do more together, and we are still, I'll be honest, having a hard time. Like, it's a totally different thing to have a local land trust. I started at one of them, and it was so much easier. It's really so much easier.
Just got.
And yeah,
I'm serious.
and I mean, I would hope, I see these things that Morgana is involved with, and I know having the office hopefully at least gives you a connection point. And I mean, I hope that you feel like you can reach out whenever to that office, or of course to the main number, but she should be our, main contact for the Madomic area. But yeah, it's hard to change from like a small founding board to now we're becoming a more mature organization, and you need a governing board that operates differently. And we have a little bit of a skeleton crew in terms of all of the different things we do. There's like one person to do all of those things. And so, I will admit that we haven't done as well as I would like to do. It's not for lack of trying.
I'd like to back up what these two women and this gentleman have said. My wife sits on the board, and I'm not gonna vote on this tonight. I feel there's a potential conflict there. But I've been up and close and personal to the land trust before it joined and became part of Mid-Coast, and while it was still MVRT. And there is such a difference. And it shouldn't be the town going to the land trust. It should be the other way. And the land trust ought to have someone on the shellfish committee on their board. I've said this, I've been saying this till I'm blue in the face, and it's never happened. The most important element in that river isn't represented on your board, and it should be. If there's a clam harvester in Waldoboro or in any other town in your service area who's willing to be on your board, they should be on your, because they are all about the water. And to a large extent, you are about the water, because the land protects the water too. It's not just the water itself. It's what filters that water going into the river that keeps it protected and allows high school seniors to go down river and clam when they want to. So there's a lot of work ahead. And I've seen this up close and personal. I've listened to telephone conversations and the frustration that comes out of those. So I do hope you get your act together. I really do, because what you're doing is critically important to the future of this town. Whether you believe in conservation or not, and I know, I think in the heart of hearts, every single one of us believes in it. Either behaviorally, because we don't develop our land, we hold it, or because we put an easement on it, so it can't be developed, or we conserve it, so it can't be developed. That kind of stuff is really important, so thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for coming.
Kelly?
Just one final thing. I'm not cynical, and I could be on this committee for 18 terms and I still wouldn't be cynical. It's just not in my nature. I'm a hopeful person. So I am hopeful that you're coming here tonight, that your colleagues who came here before is a sign of more communication, more collaboration. Maybe you can work with Marcus and have something, help guide tours during the summer camp. I mean, there's gotta be, I know there are ways that our town can work with the Conservancy, because what you do is important, as Bob just said, and others. It's critically important. It's critically important, not just for the tax base, but for bringing people here. It just is. So I will be supporting you tonight because I'm hopeful that the conversations that are happening now are just the beginning.
Well. This will be on the warrant. $6,000 request. I feel it. Let our citizens know, or our voters know, how the different board feels about it.
Is she allowed to go to the narrative now?
Yeah.
Should I go?
We may all join her.
That's a good idea, Mike.
Thank you so much for listening, and I'll remain hopeful as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. So with that said, as far as the select board goes, those, in favor of the $6,000. Oh. Motion, well, again, it's gonna be on there, whether or not.
Right, so just so
I make a
everybody,
Motion to recommend.
Yeah, recommend passage or recommend
Recommend
against
passage.
passage, yeah.
Those that recommend the $6,000,
Second,
Give me a second, John.
I was,
Skip
I was gonna say, let's make a motion. Need a second it?
I made the motion. Somebody's got to second it now.
All right, Mike made the motion to recommend the $6,000
recommend.
on the warrant. Becky, you may second it.
Sure.
Select board in favor? Opposed? Thing.
We didn't have discussion. I just want to clarify the reason why I voted no is because it's no different than LCTV, unless we see results, which we haven't got any till we see results, then we shouldn't be giving money to organizations.
May I ask for what kind of results are you looking, looking for?
Information, coming back, having the meetings, so people are well informed.
I mean, there are results out there at all these different preserves that they
I
They
beg to
run,
differ.
so.
I mean, like I said, I was part of land trust through all 5 years of doing the Madonna project. I mean, I spent countless days down the road. First day, third day, fifth day, seventh day, ninth day, testing brooks. We had 40, I think 45 brooks that we tested. So it's been an enormous amount of time. Since the land trust has left, I've had zero. And it's not right. It's not fair. We got swallowed up into a big conglomerate. And we've just been forgotten. And until I feel as though we're back in the fold, I don't feel as though we should give anything away.
And if we assume there are some results out there, somebody should be presenting those to us. Not just having us go out and seek them out. So from a select board perspective, we get the request for the tax abatement and no one is there to explain to us what they've taken for land, what their plan is for that land, what the ecological benefits of them holding that in a land trust are. We don't have a choice but to say, yep, you get your abatement because it's state law. But we've requested over and over, can you come and tell us about what you're doing? And we get no response from that. And that's, I mean, and I'm new to this board, but that's frustrating to just have to blanketly give an abatement without understanding what the benefit is to the town. And they don't have to do that, but we also have to recommend that they get an additional 6,000 on top of all the savings they're already getting in taxes, so. That's just my newbie perspective.
Pretty well stated, I think.
Okay, so the budget committee needs to,
I make
What
a
do we-
motion that we recommend passage. We recommend taxpayers pass the request for $6,000.
Second.
any more discussion?
I'm curious of a couple things. There are a number of tax abatements in town. They rarely come to us unless they have a problem, you know, like the tree growth and some of those. I agree that since MVLT has done, I agree, I really miss them. I think they're a valuable organization and I certainly miss having them in town and the activities that they did and it being a lot more visible. And I hope that will change for sure. So I'm not gonna give up on them. I'm curious about, we had another organization that went by petition, I believe, last year or the year before, rather than get money from us.
Yes,
Was that the Waldo
food pantry.
Food Pantry? Okay, did we vote on that?
Yeah.
On the warrant?
Yes, you did.
Put that
You voted on the warrant and there was a recommendation from
by the, okay,
by the committee, the budget committee and the select board.
yeah, okay. I knew we had done that before at some
Mhm.
point.
And we
But
did
they
it with
never
the
voted.
Waldo too.
And, yeah, so the Waldo did that. Do you know when they did it?
So
2019.
And they'll have to
Good.
do it again because they
Because-
didn't get their request in time. Is that right?
correct.
But if Midcoast Conservancy, now that they've done the petition, they could just be on it next year, whether they win or not?
No, if they don't, they have to do another petition.
Okay, okay.
I like it when they come in. You know, to me, it would have been nice, not the whole 6,000, but we don't have that option.
You don't have
at
that
this point.
option.
But that's I think that would have been nice that we gave them something with the idea, this is what we'd like to see. And, you know, we do that and perhaps there'll be one, but we don't have that, you know, that's too bad. I just wanted better information.
What we do have, and I want to drive a clear line here because everyone said they're more or less pro-conservancy. I'm gonna say no to this because it sends a message of you need to come to us with clear data. And that's what it's about. It's all I felt the same way about LCTV.
I wonder if the taxpayers will know that when they see it, though. They'll say no, but they won't know the reason.
It's not, the message isn't for the taxpayers, it's for the conservancy. It's for the people asking for the money.
It's the conservancy's job to get the message out if they want the money.
Which
They
is
need-
what I told her.
They need
Yeah.
to educate the public. I'm not against the conservancy.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the communications, a lack of communications, but, you know, I think that there has to be a balance, and a balance here, and, you know, they have quite a bit of money, right? I mean, they have $1 million, so, $6,000. Not a lot of money, but, I'm not gonna support this. It's not against the conservancy. Like I said earlier, this is the state law. And if something's gonna be changed on people putting their property in there as a tax shelter, I'll call it,
then that's gonna be handled at an Augusta.
I think you're right, though. And this is what I said to her. I think that voters are not going to approve this if they don't have any more information between now and election day. And that is up to them. I agree with that. But I'm a hopeful person, so I'm still supporting it.
And I will praise them if they do.
And you'll do what now?
I will praise them if
I'm-
they do.
I
I
no
have no
doubt.
problem with that.
I know that. I know.
I have no problem.
Any other discussion? How about a vote? All those in favor? The recommendation, 1, 2, 3. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4.
And two absent,
And
two absent.
2
right?
absents. So.
About that subject.
Do you want to go over the things we haven't touched yet?
Yes.
I will turn that over to Miss Peg to let you know what you haven't voted on.
So the municipal building, you said do it the last because you wanted to do an adjustment. to
Adjustment.
you. So the summaries that you have in front of you were where we were last meeting and what Julie did to cut. Down. So that affected the municipal building, which we haven't talked about, EMS, fire and police, they all went down slightly. So I don't know if you want to just hit the ones we haven't talked about at all.
Let's hit the ones we haven't talked about.
Okay,
And then go back to
And
the,
then go back to the adjustments that you had.
okay, so
So
then
municipal
municipal building,
So that'd be page
that's page 12.
12.
you might have to give them the number for the fuel oil.
Department 250. John.
Yeah.
Is there going to be an opportunity to revisit some of the things that we gave recommendations on, right, including this list of folks who came to us asking us.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Typically what we do is after we get through everything, say, well, wow, this is a little bit too low, a bit too high. Where can we?
You ever
Say
say
it's
it's
a little
too low?
Ever?
We
Okay,
never
I just wanna
said that yet.
I'm hopeful, I'm hopeful.
Actually, you guys have, you guys have, over the years, you yourself has said, Scott, it's a little too low. Are you sure you have enough? No, I'm, seriously.
So,
I guess you're right.
before we,
Take that back, I'm sorry.
so
You have-
on Department 250 municipal building. And it looks like,
Heating oil was changed, it
So like-
was 50/20, page 13. That changed from 2,898 to 1,449.
Whoa.
How did that affect the bottom
Oh,
line?
yeah, right there, 50/20, page 13.
So the total changed to $47,082, $47,083.
And how about the change in the budget? So it's 15,096 right now. What would that be? The difference between what they had before and what they're asking for this year is. I just scratched it out, $15,096. Am I looking at my things right?
Yeah, there was an increase.
That will go down because what they're asking for goes down. I'm asking what that amount is.
Let's see,
You don't want me to do math, trust me on that.
I just don't know how that's.
Captain will do it in his head, don't worry.
13,647.
13,647, thank you. That cut it in half, didn't it?
Get the
just the
gallons
fuel oil,
cut exactly.
yeah, cut it exactly in half.
And that's because of the solar panels, correct?
That's because of
Of the solar farm,
go-
right?
going to
Heat pumps.
heat
Heat
pumps
pumps, I'm
versus
sorry, yes,
oil.
okay.
And it could be more next year.
Mhm.
I don't know yet. I only had 2 months of data to base my um analysis off of.
Does electricity go up though? Or no?
So no, so I didn't touch electricity
Mhm.
because we have the solar farm.
Okay.
But because I only have 2 months of data when it's cloudy,
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
it's been hard to predict what it would be, and we are using a lot of electricity here that the solar farm is covering.
Mm.
So I didn't want, right now even, we're not producing what we're using at this time of year. And since I haven't had a full year, I don't wanna mess it up. So
No,
I
I get it.
left that electricity alone, just to be on the safe side. Trying to be safe.
But you would anticipate that number probably go down.
Next year, I
next
think
year.
I'll be able to say to you, guess what? We got through the summer and I know what the winter production is, and I know what the summer production is, and we're all good.
Okay.
That's my hope.
Well, I would just like to point out, it's never gonna go to zero because you're always gonna pay for transportation and distribution.
Right.
And those fees are going up. Those fees are going up, Central Maine Power, new power lines, and that's it's gonna go for. We've already seen it this past year, but it's gonna get worse.
But again, I'm optimistic like Kelly. It's spreading. It's still going, I mean, it's still going to be, I think, advantageous for us having this system.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, on the phone and internet service, that has gone up a lot.
Yes,
Isn't that
it
good, the
has.
licensing, didn't you say you put licensing
So
in there now?
there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that, and I will tell you exactly what it is. So it's cell phone, it's Verizon, so, well, actually, I should just go what it is for us. That is our actual phone system. And it's our internet. And it's our EES, our actual IT support,
Which you contract out? Is
which
that
we
right?
contract out, yes.
So what's new this year in there that wasn't previous? All those things?
No, it's
Or it's
just
just
prices go up. So
everything?
just, I mean, when you realize what we have to do now for our security for our IT.
Hmm.
There's a lot more than there used to be. I mean, I just got 32 UB keys that I had to take a class on to learn how to be safe with. It also and you have to realize there's our phone system, and then there's also POTS lines that we have to maintain, which are the plain old telephone lines that come into this. So we have voice over internet, and then we have POTS lines, because if the internet goes down, we need to still have a way, because this is an emergency services building. So 71,778 for communications is spent in this town, and that's spread out for the municipal building portion, EMS, fire, and police. And that's split out by how much we use. So like for the phones, the police and the town office use the most, because we have the most actual phone lines. And then, so there's a spread in that. Now, I will tell you, the IT portion of the bill, there's more spent in, believe it or not, police, because of all their specialized systems. And then I would say it's us, then EMS, then fire. So each one of those is broken down by a percentage that in the end ends up going into the line items. And yes, it is a lot. And it also includes all their cell phones in those line items. Also all the pucks, which are in each ambulance, and there's a puck in each car, a police car, there's a puck in each fire truck.
That's per year, the 70,000.
Yes,
Before we get done.
well, it's not, but it's, you think, oh, it's, phones and internet. But there's a lot that goes into phones and internet. It should probably be labeled better. Phones, internet, computer services, IT, maybe something like that would be a better.
If you had to maintain your own IT staff, you'd be well into the 6 digits. So,
It's just that the digital world and the IT world has changed vastly. And, when we have an issue, we need them to come fix it because we're 24/7. And when our server went down, I'll be honest with you, our server was older and it went down. They were in here over a weekend and had the police department back up within, I think it was, the police department itself was up within probably 4 hours. It took the town office a little bit for a day to get up, but we were operational. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're local. It's a local company.
and I worked there back in the Stone Age.
I'll be at 22.
I was 8 years old.
Anyone got any other questions?
I didn't answer my own question.
Good job.
Yeah.
Select board, I'll move $47,082. More discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Finding that cut there.
Oh, sorry it took so long. I just needed another month's bill.
5,
Nothing, a little lubrication can't help. It's that oil. Okay, budget committee, we've got $47,082 for the municipal building.
so move.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Scott did.
Jeff. First did it. Any questions, discussions? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not opposed, right?
2 F's.
Right.
We move to page 39.
Right?
Yeah. Thirty-nine is where. Okay, this year looks like you're asking for 22,554. You have the.
Okay, shoot.
The last, let's say, I won't count this year, but 24, we only used 18% of the ads.
Hmm.
We have a lot of services that are helping us, I'm assuming. It's down because we have such a great community navigator section.
Correct.
Now working, that they're finding other ways to support our community, so we don't have to jump into general assistance.
Correct.
Even though general assistance is reimbursed by the state.
By 70%.
70%. So my question would be, maybe you've already done this, do we really need to put an ask of 22,554 this year?
So I will tell you this. This year, so far this year, and especially in the last 4 weeks, we have had more asks for general assistance than we have had in the last 2 years put together.
We've had asked, but have we haven't used it though.
No, we're using it now.
What type of items, can you tell us?
So we've had asks for, temporary housing. It's one of those things where now we're getting asks for temporary housing for people who are homeless that other services haven't been able to provide. So those are emergency asks through GA. And yes, typically we've been very lucky that we've had those type of asks. But now we're finding people who need to be housed for maybe a month intermittently. So those were things that were handled prior. And given that some of the funding for, say, one of the recent things we had was we needed to provide a hotel room, which would typically have been provided by New Hope for Women because of a domestic abuse situation. That went through GA this time. So as the funding is not available for some other organizations, my concern is, will general assistance become more active? And one of the increases that's here is because we've had an in-house person, Derek, our EMS director, has been handling GA. Which was a different story when there was less of it. So now Derek and I are sharing somewhat some of the response. When he's not here, I jump in. But we may have to consider having somebody else who is not in the building potentially handling GA. So that's why there was an increase in compensation for that position. My concern all the time is I don't have a crystal ball. Any other year I'd be like, yeah, we could take it down because we've taken it down. I just don't know about this year. I don't. I can't get a good read on it if the last 4 weeks are any indication. Like I said, we had, I think last year, Peg, how many application requests did we have last year?
Couldn't tell you that because of the transition.
Yeah, I think it's about 4, and in the last 4 weeks, Derek's processed like 8 different requests. He's denied, I think 3. And they're not big ticket items, you know, it could be a room here or a room there, but that's what we're seeing.
My concern is.
I mean,
Moving on.
and we've also had 3 requests for burials too. So that's heavy for us, but we haven't had those in the past. So people who, you know, there's, I think, $3,000 or the maximum right there that we've had already. I think there's one that you can see here, and we've already had 2 more since this report was run for burials.
We're helping people from Waldoboro.
Oh, it's all Waldoboro. And just so everybody's aware of so what happens is you come in, we have intake. You have to exhaust all local resources before you can receive GA. So we take the intake form, it's sent over to community navigation, they go through community navigation, they get all the resources that they can get locally before they can even get to GA. Then they have a GA application, they're reviewed for eligibility. There is a work component to that. We go through the entire process with people. And there's a lot of information they have to provide. Today I spent about 45 minutes on the phone with a woman from the state because I got a request for something that I'd never seen before. And, you know, they have to provide a lot of information. They have to sign up for the work program. And then if you deny them, you have to send them out a actual written denial. They can appeal that, but they have to be from Waldoboro. So it is all Waldoboro residents. And we haven't, and that's one of the things that we've prided ourselves on through the community navigation is that the costs for GA, where it used to be $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 a year, as you can see, are down. The problem becomes now, we've been really good with that because we've had such great partners. Now, I don't know what shape those partners are gonna be in going forward. That's
that's
my
true.
only. That's my only caveat.
That's right.
That's,
Wanted to add that the stipend was calculated at 3 hours a week up until this year, and I think you put it to 6 hours a week.
Mhm.
This for this year. I think you guys spend more than that some weeks. These kinds of cases, both of them, seems like they do.
and I bumped up the rental portion just because that seems to be where a lot of the emergency requests are coming from. And we try to balance this too with our Philbrook fund that we have. But bearing in mind that there are certain guidelines that people may not meet to go into the Philbrook fund, but they do need to go into GA. So it's a balance of where we can put them.
Now, is this number the whole number and then we get reimbursed 70%?
We get reimbursed for 70%
Like, for example.
of the operating expenses.
2024, we spent 3269. And state reimbursed 70% of that.
Correct. Unless we've made a mistake and we allowed something that technically should have been disallowed, but that didn't happen. Like today, that's what I was afraid of when we were working on Derek and I were working on this one particular case. That's why I called the state, because I hadn't seen it before and I didn't want to spend the money and then not get the reimbursement if I did it wrong. We only have to pay the full boat for the cost of the employee who does it. And that person has to be available 24/7. So there's a number out front that you call. So if somebody needs assistance through general assistance 24/7, there's a phone number that they call. And then we are called to either Derek or I are called. We're the people who are on call. And so you're clear, I haven't taken pay for that. That's just, that's what the stipend is for doing this, that I don't take the stipend. Just,
Where in our revenue would I find from reimbursement?
That's page 68 in revenue. Under the same department.
I'm sorry, what page did you say?
Okay, I found it. Page 68.
Oh, yeah, let's see.
But we haven't had any reimbursements this year because either.
We're in the year,
We're still waiting for,
we're in the year.
do they pay us at the end?
That's a good pen question.
Or they say, let's say in July
It's
31st?
done quarterly.
Okay.
So, yeah, so you end up submitting the report to the state quarterly and then you get paid within the month of the next quarter. So sometimes there's a little bit of overlap between the years if it's at the end of June. Comes in July.
Peg, is that 70%? Do you know, is that in statute or is that something? Okay, so that would require a law to be changed in order for them to reduce that 70%.
There actually
it's
is
part of
some
the-
conversation of increasing that, isn't there?
There has been every year.
What's that?
There has been every year. And this year they're asking for 100%.
Yeah, let's say, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So the other thing I want to just bring up about general assistance is there's a lot more training that is now required to be a general assistance person. You have to be you have to have trauma informed training. There's a lot of things that were passed under a new bill that the legislature passed last year about new requirements and how we have to proceed. So it is a little bit more intensive than it used to be. And I will tell you, I said this at several meetings I was involved in about this, you know, general assistance is one of those jobs that nobody really enjoys doing. You have to, if you're going to do it well, you have to have some type of passion about it. And most of the time in towns, it's given to the person who just wants to make extra money, or quite frankly, it just gets put on their plate. And that's just the way it is. I would like to tell you that in Waldoboro, I think that how we've handled it over the years has been great. You know, I mean, Daryl used to do it when Daryl semi-retired and his hours were cut. Derek, we had Karen Ann doing it back when she was community navigation, when that went to the county. Derek took that over. We've been the backup. I've been the backup. You know, we work really hard to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So I just want to put that out there. But there is a lot to it. And like I said, you know, I'm not sure that seeing what we're seeing in numbers is sustainable for our director of EMS to continue to do that or not.
So on the revenue side, we're showing that hoping to get $4,000. That's 70% of, that's 13,450. That increase that revenue?
Well, we don't like to, since we don't know what it's going to be, we don't want to overinflate the revenue to artificially
We're overinflating the expenses because we think we're gonna get more people.
right, but but the problem is if we were to match those two numbers and then we don't get the revenue, you're not building your fund balance. I know what you want to do. I'm just not sure that I'm being very conservative in making sure we're not overstating our revenue. Because had we done that the years where we had nothing, we'd be short revenue. It doesn't have to match, and I would prefer it didn't. I'd rather plan for the worst. Hope for the best.
I see you only had $500 for this year for fuel. And the light heat being a cluster this winter and people suffering for it. You only increased it to 1,000.
So part of that is because I couldn't use it because you have. If you are signed up for LIHEAP, you don't qualify for it under general assistance.
Even
So
though you-
don't get me started.
Even though you're not gonna get fuel, which I dealt with this with Karen Ann and you and the state. Dealing with the cluster.
So I will tell you, the one thing that could solve a lot of problems here is something very simple. And if I could get anybody at the state to listen to me. Well,
No, it's a state agency.
it's the state agency. I don't care. I've even tried to tell, well,
I tried.
I'm not gonna play politics here, but I will say, I've even tried to talk to the governor about this. But I can't get past Hannah Pingree.
What is your suggestion? You said that
There
there's
should
one
be
thing.
one form. If everybody could use the same form, put it in the ACES system, and then we all have the same information and people don't have to fill out every single form, a different form for different things. If you're applying for LIHEAP, if you're applying for GA, if you're applying for TANF, for SNAP benefits, everybody needs the same form. That's what we need. And it goes into a system that then we can look up and say, oh, we already have all that information. So then people like
So many people.
the people who are working in the towns don't have the problem of having to verify all this information. We can already see it so that I'm not asking people for the same bank statements and the same notes from their doctor or when did they apply for LIHEAP. It's all the same form. It goes all into the same system. It would save time, it would save money, and it would be much more efficient. But it would be nice if somebody listened. And I know maybe my delivery stinks, but it gets really frustrating when nobody wants to listen to you. That's my end of the story on that one.
Okay, I'll make a motion
Sorry.
for $22,554 for general assistance.
Second.
Select board made a motion and seconded 22,554. Is there any other discussion?
Can I just add one thing?
No.
I just wanted to add that we've delivered 15 emergency fuel deliveries because of what you guys are dealing with the GA.
Public Works has done that, working with Karen Ann and Julie and Eric to when people are out. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
So that's not the heating assistance,
The town emergency fund,
Which is coming from where?
the town emergency fund.
town emergency fund that came from the Philbrook Fund.
Cause we put extra in it last year because of that. Yeah.
So to date, it was $1,051 in fuel.
I think we bought 3,000 or something like that.
10.
Yeah, was it 10? Was it that much?
But that's just for the public works portion of it, correct? That's just the public works portion, not the amount that we've utilized in the emergency fund.
Right.
So just so people, most people don't know this. But if you are, for people who are totally out of fuel, our public works department has delivered fuel to people. And then we call and get the major delivery the next day. And that was in response to, one, we don't want people getting cold in the winter. And it's how we help people. And it's one of those unsung things. We don't like to broadcast that, but that's one of those things that people don't realize that the town does and that the public works department
It's the kind of thing that keeps someone alive.
does. Literally, literally. And it's been really hard this year with LIHEAP because people still don't have, they told us, Karen Ann told us on Tuesday that the appointments now were,
I think they were just doing January.
they were just doing January's appointments now. So even if you had an appointment, you have not gotten your LIHEAP. And we have, I believe, John, what did we say? Over 300, we found out that over 300 LIHEAP recipients in Waldoboro.
Yeah, it was quite a few.
350, I think it was.
It was a lot.
Hey, select board. Number is, 22554. All in favor? Opposed? Yes, sir. Thank you, yes.
Those are reluctant, yes. So free to.
Four,
There's four.
4-1.
We have a practical for that.
Okay, we have $22,554 put forward by the select board. Do we have a motion from the budget committee?
I'll move.
Thank you. Any more discussion? I don't see how we can have a crystal ball, but I am concerned about this number, given what's going on at the federal level and how that's going to impact people. But we don't know, so.
Don't know what we don't know.
We have a number here. Any other discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Thank you.
I see social services would be next. That's on page 41. Even though it's broken down, it's still grouped that way.
We already went through these, right?
Yeah, we've already.
We
I've got-
voted
I've got the
individually.
votes down here on all of them. Okay,
We had to-
yeah.
So I have a new total of 33,880. 33,880. And I could run down the. Needed me to.
Well, everything stayed the same except for healthy kids, correct?
Right.
What we reduced life.
Oh, yeah. Well, we went up on healthy kids. Hey, that was one that I thought was.
The only thing I would like to do is if we could with that is that Healthy Kids and Healthy Lincoln that does the Lulu, the lunch wagon, Dave, they're separate in this line item. If we could separate that line item, that would be great.
Which line item? I'm sorry, which,
The 90-30 healthy kids.
separate it from what?
Well, just separate that, the additional funding that you wanted would go to Lulu specifically. We can designate that to go specifically to Lulu
Okay.
if you want. Lulu,
To Lucy the lunch wagon.
it's Lulu,
But it's all on the same line, correct?
yes.
So we
If
went
you,
up by 1170. Because we went to 5,000, correct?
Mhm.
So 1170 goes to that.
yes,
1070?
Yeah, 1070, sorry.
so. John,
Lost.
It's 40. Healthy kids.
Line 90-30.
Yep. We went from 3930 to 5,000.
So Lulu, 1070 and Healthy Kids is 3930. Is that what we're saying?
Yep.
3930 was the year to date.
it can just be
We did.
$5,000. I just want you to realize we should,
How do we break that out without?
we can make the donation and rate,
Did it all go to the healthy kids?
yes,
The full
but,
5,000.
but
would
we
go-
want it to go to the Lulu lunch wagon portion.
Can we do that? Can we?
We can specify that on the check. I don't think it has to necessarily be,
So we don't have to change anything.
but
Okay.
You need a motion from the select board to.
I'll do that when we do it. How's
certify
that?
expenditure.
Okay, I know everybody's worried about what we could, if any place we could save money, and I have an option for you guys. Healthy Kids and Spectrum Generations, they help our seniors and our children. We have a fund that the select board combined a few years ago that took care of wayward widows and orphans.
How about the widows that weren't wayward?
No, it was only for wayward, and believe it or not, when we actually had to redo the trust for this, it was actually quite an interesting, remember?
To listen to rock and roll and go out at night.
No, they were wayward widows. And there was a lot of conditions on this trust when it was done back in the early 1900s. And you don't want to know them. And the judge really found them exciting, but we do have a fund. They were wayward, and there were orphans. We do have a fund that would allow, and that has funding in it, if you wanted to move that and make the payment from the Fennelly. There's 3 different names with it, but we combined all of them. That I would say that supporting Healthy Kids and Spectrum Generations would fit.
You've absolutely lost me. I'm sorry. So there's,
So there's a fund,
The trust fund.
The
that
trust
was
fund.
it's completely separate from this book here.
completely
Not-
separate.
Separate
Okay.
trust funds called
Correct.
Fennelly, Standish and Matthews, and they were really obsolete because they had these very obscure definitions of what a wayward woman might be. And who, how many alewives she might earn because of whatever. And so, anyway, they modified the trust, so it'd be combined and used for what Julie, like general assistance types or community service or social services.
But it
needs.
had to be for children and elderly or senior citizens. And I thought that if you're looking for ways, I know everybody's looking for ways to save, that this could be an option if we moved those over to this trust fund.
So it's not listed. So it's not like the grants were under EMS and fire and
No.
police. That was listed as a revenue item. This is not like that.
So you wouldn't put those into the revenue to make up for this?
There is no revenue on this, in
By
this.
state law, if you have a trust, you're allowed to petition a trust that's more than 25 years old. You're allowed to petition the state to change how that trust money is spent. if it's become absurd.
Correct, and we did.
And this became absurd, as you can tell. So we invoked that and wrote and got permission to combine the three and use it appropriately. And I think that's a great idea.
How much money is in
And
this?
so it comes off the budget completely.
Right.
Yes.
How much money is in this trust?
Is that the one I don't know if I have that off the top of my head.
And how
I
many
think it's
fish?
$197,000.
I'm sorry, say it again.
$197,000, I believe.
And so we're looking to
Wow.
reduce the principal in that trust?
No, that's only, the principal's very small because it was donated in 1923. We're operating on a lot of interest.
Yep.
We've done well on the trust fund investment part.
Can I get a copy of these trusts? Because I think this is a book in the making.
Movie.
Something.
Well, I mean, we went through this when we were in the process of doing it, when we actually, because we had to have, it was a couple years ago we did this. And this is the fund that we used to support the community navigation when it first started.
Oh, okay.
That's where we got the funding to be able to have a community navigator.
What,
Worthy widows, and we had to decide what was.
Worthy,
and
or
what
if they
was
were wayward,
unworthy.
yes.
Oh, my goodness.
It was very, I mean, if you were to look at the trust, the original trust document, it was quite funny. And Peg is right, and it involves alewives.
Hmm.
How many alewives they were eligible to have.
And market value right now is, sorry, 194,400 and what? 403, sorry.
Well, Val, go ahead with your question. I've got something for you too.
yeah, I'm just wondering if we take money out of these line items with the assumption that it's gonna be paid out of the trust, what happens in future years
Yeah,
to these amounts?
you're gonna,
Well, I would hope that it could be sustaining them,
The 192,000.
because you're still gonna earn
that-
interest. You can never take away from the principal, but we
Hmm.
can have guardrails on there. We can come up with a policy. It was simply a thought because.
no, it's a really good
Yeah,
thought,
but
but I do
there
think there
it
should
should
be a
use it.
policy though,
Mhm.
because that way it carries forward.
Mhm.
Because you've already said you're not gonna be here 40 years from now. Well, someone's gonna need to look at this 40 years from now, and the
Mhm.
alewives conversation will be, I'm sure.
It'll get lost.
Speculating, but you
It'll
know,
get lost.
so would the select board then make the policy, correct?
They would make the policy
So we're talking healthy kids.
and spectrum generations.
Let's-
We
how-
could,
And how about New Hope, because they're wayward women.
We'll give them some.
I don't,
House was qualified.
Oh.
no. Honestly, I could make an argument. Within the trust document for New Hope for Women.
I took phone calls.
Yeah.
from interviews.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I'd argue that the policy shouldn't state a particular organization, because over the next 50 years.
Well, I wasn't
Yeah,
suggesting it would.
Right.
I wasn't
But we
suggesting
can
it would,
certainly
yeah.
State that 2 or 3 organizations that the select board at that particular time deems to be worthy or in need.
Well,
that-
deeming of worthiness.
I don't like the.
I don't like that word,
No, and-
but we'll figure it out.
Wayward organizations.
Whatever, Kelly.
A process question, because this is my first time. So if we take them off the books,
Mhm.
okay, and it's say at some point, I don't know, this trust, something happens to it and the money's not there anymore. How do they get put back into the budget?
They would do
Would they have to do a petition and all of that?
Currently.
Could we leave a token amount in the line item, like, healthy kids down to $1,000?
You'd have a hard time explaining that to the public taxpayers that would, you're only
That's
giving them $1,000 when last year we gave them 3. You're stingy. I mean, you don't, I think that would not play well.
It was just I know everybody's gonna be looking for cuts. It was just,
I think it's a really
Yeah,
good suggestion.
it
That
was
money
just a way to,
should Be used.
$12,030 if you take those 3 categories out.
Oh, if you do the, I forgot, the
You
New Hope as well.
Do New Hope as well, it's $12,030 total.
Would communication be made to these agencies so when they don't see their line items on the budget, on the ballot, they will know that they're getting money? It's just, okay.
Are you talking about taking all of the money, say, from Healthy Kids, not just what we added to it? but
right, I would
everything?
say just take their appropriations that you guys have approved or will approve, and that they can still go through this process every year. It's just that we would then move it out of the budget into the Fennelly fund, the FSM fund.
You say go through this process every year. That's where I'm confused, because if we take it off the budget now, they wouldn't be.
Right, but if budget committee and select board would like for the budget committee to be a part of it, they could say, they could still submit like they do, and you guys could recommend to the select board that
That
we,
it come from the
that it
fund.
come from the fund.
Someone's gonna need to write that down.
Well,
It'll be part of the post.
Yeah,
yeah,
In a minute. So with that said, I guess for the select board, I make the motion that these three organizations be transferred over to the Fennelly Fund.
Second.
in the amount of $12,030. Becky's
Ten-
math was right.
oh, I thought it was,
I used a calculator.
so we're talking about $5,000. Can we, yeah, sorry, we're talking about $5,000 for Healthy Kids. We're talking about $2,095 for New Hope and $4,935 for Spectrum Generations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's removing $12,030.
And what did you say that came up to?
$12,030.
Okay.
And that makes our new total, well, it doesn't matter right now. We'll be voting on that in a second, so. Select board, any other discussion? Take these three agencies, $12,030 and move it to the Fennelly Fund. All in favor? Opposed?
Now, since we voted on that, do we have to vote also on your change? How does that work?
No, right now we're voting on taking those three agencies and removing them from this.
Right, you're zeroing out these line items.
Right.
So does the budget
No, that's
committee?
I don't think they make that. decision.
That's what we're talking about. Did the
Yeah,
budget
do
committee?
we
make
have
that
to vote
recommendation?
on this?
So now we have to vote on
The new
the
number.
new number, which is.
John,
$21,850.
You need to do an interpretive dance of some kind.
Oh,
Speed of mind.
Big,
I'm sorry, 21, what was it?
$850.
What you got paid?
That's perfect.
I'm sorry, did you say 21?
1850.
21,850 will be the new number for social service agency.
What
You get something, Julie?
do you think it's about?
Just throw something. at
do you want to have another Julie moment? Of
What?
savings?
Is it in this social service?
Yes, it is.
Oh. Good.
Wow.
When the Waldoboro Food Pantry came and wanted to petition, I had suggested that the Philbrook Fund might be a good home for the contribution for the food pantry. And I was told by your dad, no. But
Thankfully, he's not.
but that also might be a good fit, not for the Fennelly, but for the Philbrook Fund. And if you recall, when the food pantry was here, they were explaining to us about all the forms they fill out, and what has to be done for intake when they're there. So they would all qualify under the Philbrook Fund for what, well, at least the form is filled out.
The form is filled out.
The form is
So
filled
that
out.
they would all qualify.
Well, I would
So
say a
they're-
majority would qualify for. They have to fill out the form. There might be, that might be a way if you wanted to move food. Any contributions we make to food for people to have food out of the Philbrook Fund.
So including the veggies to table as well, then I'm guessing, right?
You could take that too, yes. And I say that because we have a good balance in the Philbrook Fund also. We could also include that in the policy.
I would hesitate with the veggie table. I guess one reason would be to do that because they're not located here in Waldoboro.
Well, that would be an
and
issue.
they're not,
Mm.
so those funds, are they going specifically for
Gotcha.
Waldoboro?
Yeah, right.
Very good point, very good
Yeah,
point.
because that does have, they have to be.
And,
Food pantry also.
No, the what?
well, they also support a little bit in Bremen's.
Right.
Small percentage. Like a few, but the,
What,
my stipulation, personal stipulation would be, just like we did when they did the petition. Is we stipulated that we pay for food only,
Right.
instead of writing them a check for $20,000, they submitted, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they submit invoices and then we paid those invoices up to $20,000?
Correct. They spend well more than that on food.
Right, yeah.
I know we get quite a bit of money in the Philbrook, but I wouldn't feel comfortable doing all 20,000 out of the Philbrook, maybe half. Because taxpayers are still getting it, but you know what I mean? I think half that, just so we don't deplete the Philbrook fund. I know it's, what, 250,000.
Oh, Philbrook's a little more than that.
Yeah, we earned like 44,000 in interest, 12-month period. Recently, so,
But what else comes out of that fund though?
Right.
A lot.
yeah, that's
A
the
lot.
thing.
And that's
the
where
thing.
my concern is. We don't want to deplete, because I think, well, we still get a lot of interest,
Mhm.
but we generate about 44,000.
Yeah.
So
So what else does come out of the Philbrook fund? I mean, what else is in here? What else comes in the
chip-
door?
a lot of chip stuff comes out of there, and that could be $3,000 or $4,000 to a whack. I think we did a $3,000 approval the other night.
Yeah.
So that could eat up that 44,000 real quick.
Is that an average yearly gain in that?
I would not want to be the person to talk about an average interest with the weird climate that we've had.
Had it previously.
Bob?
I was just gonna say, I think I agree with that, but it's probably better to live off the interest than dig into the principal.
Well, we
And be
can't. take it
conservative
from-
about living off the interest rather than aggressive. Better.
We can look at a few years.
I'm just curious,
you know,
and the other fund, what does that usually bring in?
one.
The three letters after?
FSM.
FSM.
That I've got. That one's smaller, that was 10,000.
Okay, yeah, 1,000 over 12 months.
So I do have a question. So you were pointing out that the food pantry, this $20,000 doesn't all go just to feed families from Waldoboro, correct? Some of it may feed families from other towns.
Bremen and Noblesboro.
Right, which I think is great. I have no problem with that. My question is for the fund that you're talking about taking this out of, does it have stipulation that it can only be used on? How are you going to do that? How are you going to
That's,
only reimburse them for people who live in
I
Waldoboro?
think that's why only paying half of it out of that account would save me.
But you still, they're still, I mean, do they right now, do they give you in, do they? I know that they spend more than $20,000. I know that they do, obviously,
They do.
clearly. But, you know, I'm thinking long-term, there's a lot of documentation that's gonna need to happen here. Do you need to have a discussion with the food pantry before you would
So I
decide
don't,
to?
once they got on I think when we requested the documentation, it was the first time we gave them money before the warrant. Once it's been on the warrant, we haven't asked for documentation. It's a check because we know that they spend more than $20,000 a year for food.
Mhm.
And their numbers, I mean, we get their numbers every week. They provide me with every food pantry, they provide me with numbers and. the
Oh, they
numbers-
report them to the.
They already
families.
report them to
Yeah,
me.
I know, but they don't break it out by food necessarily for what they report.
No,
on
but
Facebook or what have you.
but they report the numbers and they also include for us how many Waldoboro members were served, how many
Okay.
Freeman members. So I would say we would be safe with the $20,000 providing food to Waldoboro.
I just would want to make sure that the documentation is all in order before we decide we're gonna take 10,000 off of here and then, oops, now we can't. I mean, that would be my.
I think it's
fear.
just a mechanism of how we pay for it. Again, it was just a suggestion.
Oh, I like the suggestion. I just want to make sure there is a tripwire here that means that the food pantry is going to ultimately get less money than what they need. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
How are we gonna explain to voters
Yeah.
on the warrant
That's true.
that we're cutting the food pantry by $8,000 or $10,000?
I think we can explain it just like we explain everything else above before they vote.
A reduction due to this source.
Right, because we were already doing that. If something was adjusted, we're already explaining.
Added funding? Additional funding?
In order to mitigate a rise in taxes, we have utilized a trust fund for
To cover half of
$10,000.
your request.
Yeah,
So that would be on the line item.
it would be on the line item.
Okay.
Printed on the ballot?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
That-
that would be
that-
good. Yes.
That's,
I thought it was gonna be in the voter guide,
it
which
can be a
is
vote.
fabulous and I read it, but come on, I'm a geek. Most people don't read that, so.
Right.
2 o'clock in the morning ideas, they work really well sometimes.
Okay. And that'll get refined as time goes on.
Mhm.
Want to make that motion?
Yeah,
Reduce it to
you
10,000.
you figure out how to make that motion.
I make the motion, reduce the food pantry to $10,000 and the other $10,000 comes from the Philbrook Foundation. Second.
More discussion, look forward. All in favor? Opposed? One opposed, yeah.
Who is that?
4.
What do you think?
So,
So we're down to $11,850 for that line item. Is
Yes,
that right?
that's right.
so we have to vote on that $10,000.
we just voted on it first.
Oh, you haven't voted?
No, we were just voting. to
Oh,
do
okay,
that
okay.
change.
Yep.
Is that
Oh, we,
Philbrook fund?
oh, they gotta vote on that, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
You gotta vote on the change for the food pantry.
Right,
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Okay.
because what we're voting on then is for $10,000.
Correct.
Okay.
okay, so budget committee, we have $10,000 for the food pantry.
Very confusing.
We have a
I'm
motion.
sorry.
No, it's.
Thank you, Seth. Second, thanks, Ruben. Any more discussion?
One comment.
Sure.
When you folks are writing policies for these different trust funds, I think it's important you build in some kind of early warning tripwire or whatever. If you can see that fund or
Yes.
if whoever sees that
Yes.
fund, avoiding away before it's gone, a written warning needs to go out that, hey, you're funded this year, but next year, please submit your petition because X source has gone away. And hopefully that's not a problem for a long time. But that way we don't cause future people some mad headache.
Yeah, I am a little concerned about, yeah, these organizations having to go through the whole petition process again to get back on.
Well, just so everybody's, I understand you have concerns. This was a trust fund that was established in the early 1900s.
The Philbrook fund?
Well, I can speak to the Fennelly, the FSM, some of it was in 1910, I think, 1930. So some of this, that's been in existence. We can't touch the initial principle, but we can use the interest, and that interest has been building and building and building and
Yeah, but the
building.
initial principle, that means we can deplete it down to.
Well, you could, but
2,000,
we would
5,000.
never want to do that. I mean,
Right.
that's
That's the concern.
right,
You
but
start-
that's why every year. Matt from the first, who handles we have the first handle all of our that part of the investments comes before the select board and updates you on the funds.
For the Philbrook fund as well, too.
For the
Yeah,
Philbrook,
for all-
Because that
all
was the
trust
one that
funds,
you said
all
only,
trust funds.
that one you said only generates about 44,000-ish a year.
Right,
That
but there's,
was, that was just a snapshot of a 12-month period.
right, but that also has a much larger balance in it than the FSM.
Okay.
So there's another, this is an example, is another fund, it's the George Gentner Scholarship Fund. And when the school is getting ready to figure out what they need for, have their scholarship committee, they'll call me and say, how much can I offer for the scholarships? And I look and see, and I follow the protocol. And if they have 30,000 to use, they have 30,000 to use, and then it still accumulates, it's not, that's what they have. So that's what I would foresee being similar here, that we would figure out what we want to do, figure out what the parameters are, and then we'll know before we even begin the budget cycle, how much
Okay.
we can.
I think the tripwire that Ruben suggested was really good to be written into the policy. And will you be communicating with these 4 agencies?
Yes,
Okay, that this is what's happening, okay.
so that they don't get upset.
And
They
so that
see.
they understand that at some point in the future, they may have to do the petition
I'm
process again.
hoping that they never have to.
I'm with you on the hope, but.
Well, it's a conservative.
See, now you're being cynical.
Yeah.
You're being cynical.
Realistic, not cynical. What now?
Said we broke you.
Yeah.
John, Pam
I didn't
has a
take
comment.
long.
I'm just saying this as, I don't know, anyway. If it's not their request to be moved from their initial request to a trust fund, why should we require them to do a petition when they didn't do it on their own? That's just my thought.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's something, yeah.
You know,
I don't think they care how
I
they
think
get
if they
paid.
stay in the flow, no matter where we pay
Yeah.
them, I don't think we should require a petition. That's my,
Be part of the policy.
Should be part of the policy. Excellent idea.
write that down.
You're taking the minutes.
Mike, you had something?
Yeah, it's, you mentioned Chip and, when there's money when they're in the black, I say, why aren't we spending more? Why aren't we helping more people? And in the face of these budget cuts everybody sees coming down from the feds, I don't think we should be, trying to conserve these funds. I mean, that's what they're here for. They're here to help people here and now. So, I'm not saying that was, we should go of the full 20,000, but you just have to keep in mind that this is here to help people in the here and now.
And that's why we changed. Because FSM, the FSM fund had such strict things and nobody had ever, and when Peg and I started, when Peg became finance director and, we're like, what are all these funds? And then we're reading what we could use them for. We could never have used them unless we actually went and got permission from the courts to change.
The Standish Fund was for, I'm just looking it up, destitute and deserving orphans, like that's the quote that.
Gotta
that they
recruit
had
some of those.
So
for
you
the
wouldn't want an
town.
orphan that didn't deserve it.
You're saying.
They had a year.
Well, maybe the Menendez brothers.
Well, that's who they had in mind.
Maybe the vision here, and you've said it in another way, is to simply support all of these ultimately from trust fund monies that the town controls. And maybe that ought to be the medium-term goal at some point. So that it stays off. the
As long
tax
as they
base entirely
As long as they stay,
involved.
Self-sufficient.
right, like Life Flight is
Right.
really hard
No,
for us to
exactly.
fund
I'm
through
just
that.
talking about the
Right.
Waldoboro ones. that serve
Yeah.
the town.
Becky?
I would just say that even though I voted against this change, when it comes before the select board to actually fund it, I don't have a problem with that. I just am not convinced here in this setting that it should come from the Philbrook fund.
Why? Do you mind if I ask why? Because the budget
I
committee hasn't
just
voted on
hear-
this yet.
I hear a request for the Philbrook fund monthly and feel that money going out. And
Mm,
those are for very deserving causes,
mhm.
individuals who need the help of those funds.
Mhm.
And I would not want to see an organization get those funds and then us be in a position where at some point an individual can't benefit from a fund that was set up to help an individual.
And that's why I said 10,000, not double.
Yeah.
That still leaves us 34,000. Do you know how much we spent in Philbrook last year?
I'm actually running that right now. Last year or this year?
Or actually, you can look at it this year.
I was looking at this year. For the building, like Chip, we paid 5,053. See,
Last year, because we're over that.
this year right now, I'm saying this year, our
Well,
current.
that's what you've paid out, but we've approved more than that. for
Right.
Sure.
You're right around just a tad over 10,000.
Yeah, we've approved a couple of things recently. in the last
Which,
couple of
like,
weeks.
you don't
That
have,
was only Chip, like. that-
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, and so,
so-
medical.
yeah, they don't, she doesn't have the other nights yet.
Yeah.
We did a family stay for 270, that wasn't very much. We did a rent for 2,600. And then we moved money into the emergency fund. From the Philbrook fund of 10 grand for the fuel assistance, so we have been using it.
And that's just so far this year. That's since January.
No.
No,
That's
since
the
July.
July.
Oh, the fiscal
fiscal year.
okay.
So we've used probably 20,000 of it then. So I mean, if we've still got another 10 to 14,000 window if we use 10,000.
And I would point out, I don't know that the Philbrook Fund was necessarily set up to help individuals. I think it reads to help the deserving poor. And that is either singular or plural. I mean, it really depends how we define them. So I think we're within the spirit, if not the letter of trust.
I like this debate and everyone's concerned to preserve these different working pieces, because it's clearly where it's coming from.
Right, yeah, no, and I'm not against.
I just don't want to
Helping
think,
people.
I don't think anyone here thinks you're doing anything malicious.
Not at all.
No, that's why I
way.
wanted to clarify,
Yeah.
and I think the funds, when it comes before the select board to actually approve that and send it out, I'm for sending money to it.
You want to make sure that you don't have to turn anyone away because we're doing this. I
No,
get
and
it.
I don't think it would be me that would turn them away.
No, but I'm
It
just
would be
saying, I
50
did,
Years from
yeah.
now in my
Yeah.
absence.
Al?
So Philbrook Fund has already dispersed 20,000
Mhm.
and change this year. And the interest gained on that this year was 44,000.
No, I just gave you a 12-month snapshot that it was 44,000.
Within 12 months.
Right, over a
Okay.
year.
So things have been really good the last year or two. And I would not expect 44,000
Yeah. he's
per
right.
12 months in the future necessarily. And so if we're committing, what do we got
10,000.
here?
10,000.
10,000.
But
And if
we've
we only got
earned,
$20,000 next year to work with.
but there's a, Peg, do you want to give them the balance? for
Yeah, I was just-
Philbrook?
It's a
the
lot.
previous
It's a lot.
income. Yeah.
It's gotta be a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you anyway.
Listen to you guys do math, it's awesome.
It's lots of master.
Yeah. Yeah.
We spent 18, that I did do the balance. We spent 18,273 so far out of it. And the balance is $584,683.40.
That's not going anywhere anytime soon.
It's always increased in value since I've been on the board.
Mhm.
We've never spent all the
Never.
interest on it.
We've never.
Never.
Well, that might not
change.
always be the case.
But we also have to realize each Philbrook application goes before the select board.
Hmm.
And they have to provide, when it's not an organization like this, individuals, there is a form they fill out. And they have to provide a lot of information, and it's a very thoughtful process. That, I handle it personally, I meet with the people, the select board gets a write-up. They're very well informed about it, and it works really well.
Sounds like everyone's doing work to be good stewards of these funds. You can maintain that attitude out there.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Oh.
No, there is. For the budget- for the budget committee, they're very good.
Make a motion for.
No, you've already voted.
I made a motion.
No, you guys. Oh, 10,000, that's right. You get down. I thought
Yeah.
that was the whole thing.
Just need that yes or no.
Yeah.
Okay, should we move the question?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor of the 10,000? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None opposed, 2 absent.
Now,
Okay,
I can make a motion for social services, total 11,850.
Second.
Any more discussion? Select, all in favor?
okay, budget committee, 11,850 for social services agencies.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Entertain a motion for a break.
Second.
All in favor?
Two, there you go.
Say no.
Somebody's missing. Scott Martin's
Scott
missing.
and Bob. By the time we get going, it's starting to. We adjourn this meeting. We'll move on to.
We adjourn it. I think that would.
Yeah. Yeah. Reconvene it?
Reconvene.
Yeah.
It's after 8, John. You know what
Ooh.
happens.
Been a long week. Jump to page 46. The property of Huff's Sylvania Property Hospice House, AKA, what's the address?
405.
405.
Well,
So the property and casualty risk pollution control insurance has been removed, but we wanted to keep something in there for land maintenance in case things come up that we need. And this is for the Sylvania property and the Hofstas house. This has nothing to do with the demolition of the Hofstas house. It's strictly things that we might need. It's the first time that we've had a land maintenance item in there.
Gonna polish the concrete or something.
Actually, it's the second time because we did put something in it. for it
Yeah, we
last year.
need
That's
to have
right.
some money there for mowing
Right, mowing. So that's
And-
what's in there.
and mulching, to get our mulching. in.
Once we get our mulching, head,
We mulched it once before.
correct, we're gonna mulch it.
Yeah.
Public Works will be there, but just in case there's other things that we need to do. Make it, maybe paint the wall till some stuff is done so that it doesn't have graffiti. And the kid, just so everybody's aware, the ballots are going out tomorrow to the school for the kids to name the park.
As long as it's not like boat face or something.
They have 4 choices. There are 4 choices that were approved by the select board
Okay.
and
You didn't approve anything like that. Huh?
no, they did not pick anything like that.
I move 2,500 for Sylvania. Second. Moving second, discussion, other than that, I plan to say that again. Sylvania committee. Sylvania.
If the name should be picked before the ballot, so you can change the name on the ballot part.
They won't know what they're voting.
Oh,
All in favor? Go. Oh.
I'm not voting. I just had a question. What is the situation with the property and casualty risk?
so that
Insurance.
became cost prohibitive and our this wasn't about pollution control. Truly, it was
Okay.
about if we were to have some type of a leak, like their pollution control for whatever is there already is there. Our own insurance now, because we've now had it for several years, would cover that under our regular risk
So like
policy.
if there was a public works truck and it leaked oil or something, not that our public works truck.
Correct, or say
Oil,
we
but
put
hypothetically.
fuel oil in, there was a fuel oil tank that we decided to put in and it leaked. Again, that becomes anything we add
Okay,
would cause us to have that, but
what about liability? Is that under general town?
we have general town liability. We've never split that out by department. It's just everybody's liability altogether. Except for, I think we do split it out,
We allot 10% to the transfer station.
yes, to the transfer station.
Okay, so we have $2,500 for Department 635, AKA whatever it happens to be decided on. Do we have a motion from the budget?
Oh,
There you go.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
The service agencies. About these both. Your final number for that pay
Is 106,000. And yes, 106,800. Want me to go down the list?
guys, did you cut some? Yep. OCTV. Oh, yeah.
Just 5,000.
Which we have no choice. If we got LCTV to 11.
Yeah, we cut LCT by 5,000.
Okay.
They requested 20, we voted for 15.
Jack, can we revisit Lincoln County?
Yes,
Sorry.
yeah.
That'd be great.
Yep. Now, we didn't revisit any of those
Yeah,
before we go for that final number.
I kind of like Ruben's idea. I don't want to mistake your idea.
Oh. Yeah. I spent a bunch of time staring at LCTV and I did it again this week, hoping this question would come up. And there are some key points I found. They have little to no dedicated Waldoboro programming. When they upload it to YouTube or onto their own channels, it's not identified well. Like if you look through their VOD service or even their YouTube, their videos just say select board meeting. Good luck figuring out which select board until you start watching the video. Everything they do is made redundant by YouTube. The quality's low. The production stuff, even if they teach it to students, honestly isn't very good. It's not going to lead someone to a career. This is my third year on this board. All 3 years they've come with some form of bad data. The quality's improved, but even this year it was still terrible. And full of blaming other people that weren't in the room. And for those reasons, I think they're outmoded. I think there was a time where public access video was important, when people's one-way mass communication cable was all you had. I think their time has passed. I think this money is better used on anything else. And for that reason, I don't think they should get any funding.
And I'd also add that, you know, I agree. I mean, that was when I started on the budget committee. The question was how much it was being focused in Waldoboro. It seemed to all be focused in other communities. In communities that weren't giving them any money. And, you know, back 25, 30 years ago, like I was thinking, you know, older people that can't get out watching the ball games, watching meetings. But most of these people, I can't find the shows, like LCTV. You know, it's on cable. I don't have cable, but when I did have cable, it was on channel 292.
That was the
Versus
problem.
channel 7, when it was on, you know, back years ago, it was on channel 7, easy for people to find. So I would agree that I'm not sure it's serves much of a purpose for us to fund them.
Kelly?
I'm in support of cutting them, but if we take $15,000 out of their budget, will someone lose their job? Will one of their employees get their hours cut? Will someone lose their income?
I would say probably. I'm gonna also say that's already going to happen. The funding they use, the money that you get from cable companies, that comes from just TV subscriptions. Now, your Spectrums, your Cox Communications, all those guys. Those companies are never not going to be taking money in, but it's all shifting to data services, things that don't fund that operation. And ultimately, what's shrinking is that specific service. So those people might not work there, but if they have that skill, there's other better ways to be employed making that kind of content.
Right, but when they're trying to make rent, you know, it's kind of hard to know you're voting that a vote that you could cast today could cost someone their job, and that's very sobering.
That's fair.
Is there employee listing in the big book?
Bob, you have-
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate, that Ruben said, technology is past. We're getting this town lit up with fiber optic, no cable at all. And the franchise fees we're getting for Spectrum are gonna go way, way down, if not disappear completely. At some point, Spectrum is gonna decide putting cable into Waldoboro just isn't worth the expense anymore. And I would make that decision if I were them too, because the market has just changed completely. It's all streaming now, and you don't stream very well with cable, as nearly as well as you do with fiber. I can't agree with Ruben more. The technology's pass this whole thing by. I mean, when was the franchise thing set up back in the sixties? I mean, it's that old and it's gone.
The only thing I temper that with is I think cable TV is gonna go away. The data speeds are gonna change, but my core argument is just about where that funding source.
I'm not disagreeing with your argument. I'm just thinking of the repercussions that we may not be thinking of. We're thinking of, they're
But
not
even-
providing good services to Waldoboro. The services they are providing are being replaced and they're available elsewhere. I get all of that.
Mhm.
But putting a face to it is where I'm struggling.
Becky,
That's our responsibility as this group is what we're doing, what are they doing for Waldoboro? I would also say giving them $15,000 is throwing good money after bad. Moving deck chairs on the Titanic, whatever analogy you wanna make, given that we saw the level of credit card debt that this company is operating under. They're sinking ship, and we can throw $15,000 or tax their money,
I don't think we should put 15,000 in.
or 8, or it's 5, or whatever. We could throw some money at them, but it's not gonna stop the slide.
And I would say, nobody's career is tied into TV necessarily. I mean, you can always swing a hammer. Or most people can swing a hammer, not everybody.
I
can.
don't, yeah, but I don't know that, and neither do you really.
He did mention how
There
many,
are lots of job openings. I mean, you open up the Lincoln County News and there's page after page of job openings.
Payroll, I have their payroll.
I don't think anybody is going to,
109,000.
they may lose this job, but they'll be able to pick up a job.
Just so you
pretty
know,
quickly.
that's the argument that is being used to lay off hundreds of thousands of federal employees right now. So,
You know,
We
I
just-
don't disagree with a lot of those jobs. You know, why do we have a mediation group, a railroad mediation grouug?
well, let's stay on topic here.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, go down that rabbit hole.
so. Peg said that they have a payroll of $109,000. But I don't know, I know he addressed. How many
Staff.
people he had when he was here. I don't think
he
there,
gave us stuff, but I don't remember if the
I
employee
definitely
numbers. was-
appreciate the human element. I guess I filed this under what Becky had to say about focusing on Waldoboro. And I think sometimes there are hard calls to be made.
Do we know that their employees don't live here? These could be Waldoboro people we're putting out of the job. I'm sorry, I'm really struggling with
She's
that.
getting cynical on us.
No, I'm not getting
No, no,
cynical.
no,
No,
it's- I'm
it's
not-
actually not cynical. It's, well, I've said my piece.
Effectively coming from a positive place.
Well, like I had mentioned before, is that, and I don't know if it's changed much, but. Back when I started on the board, this topic has come up several times each year, and. There were towns that they were providing more, at least from what I saw, providing more services to. Shows and that sort of thing, that weren't paying. At all, if, or very little.
Wisconsin being one of them.
Wisconsin. And I think, I may be wrong, but I think that. If you wanted to, I think you had to pay, I'm not sure if I'm right, because we tried to find some basketball games. And you had to pay to watch the games. So, it wasn't entirely free, now I may be wrong, that's what my recollection.
The live stream it while it's happening, you could just go do that if you could figure out how to install the app or you have the channel. They have a VOD service after that you can subscribe to like Netflix. If the people that want to use the service paid for it, they would pay less than that than they pay for franchise fees. Your average cable user is paying $20-30 a month in those fees, which gets funded to them. Those people could actually save money if they accessed it a different way, if they really wanted the service.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you, I was looking at their website and it looks like they could have 4 staff members, but I wouldn't know like what their hours are.
And the
or-
payroll's $109,000, you said?
Yeah,
So
so
we've
I
got
imagine there's like
109,000 across
most are
4 people.
part-time, or all of them are probably part-time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And there's a dog. Dog, hey, Toby.
Toby.
Their staff.
That's good.
they have the executive director, who is Larry. development and outreach coordinator, a production manager, and a production assistant.
And they don't have any board members from Waldoboro.
Do they still do the historical society things?
No. We do those through Facebook.
Okay, I watch those. If they're back on Channel 7, they did do that, but it's programming is not like it used to be.
No, and like I said, older people would have a hard time finding,
Except they're on Channel 7.
are they?
Yeah, they're back on that. They got enough complaints.
Right?
I would just put out a reminder that he mentioned that he's hoping to collaborate with our local high school. Do some things. And if that comes to fruition, they would be funding school budget. That would also impact our taxpayers.
If they get involved with that program, I hope they improve their. With those gifts. Would they be applicable in the modern context?
How do you?
But I know you're not arguing with that. That's my soapbox.
Well, and that was his justification for the $5,000 increase, I think, wasn't it? He said that $5,000
But then I
was
asked
specifically
about
for that
what-
program.
What were Waldoboro taxpayers going to see as an implication in the school budget? And I
Yeah.
didn't,
He
I
couldn't
didn't
answer
really
that
get a
question.
clear answer, and I
Yeah.
think it's important to consider that if it's starting something through the school, then there's gonna be a line item in their budget as well, which would also be funded by taxpayers here. I think that's a lot to ask for the level of quality that is being given to Waldoboro.
This should be clear cut, but it doesn't feel that way for me for some reason.
Okay, that's why it's a big committee.
Yeah, no, but I'm actually just, I'm thinking aloud, so I
Want to make a motion to change? Or-
Yeah, I can bring it down to 0.
Second.
Seconded for LCTV to be moved to 0. Any more discussion on this? All in favor? Opposed?
Okay, the budget committee has a number of 0 for Lincoln County TV from the select board. We have a motion.
Guess I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
thank you. Any discussion?
I feel a little uncomfortable since we've already agreed. I think 15 was high personally, but to go from that to 0 without communicating with him at all just doesn't feel right. I don't know, quandary.
I have to agree, I'm uncomfortable with going all the way to 0.
Say that again.
I'm uncomfortable with going all the way to 0. I would probably support $10,000.
You got a motion on there for 0, right?
For 0, yeah.
So you have to call a vote on that.
Well, we could have a motion to amend the amount. Anyone?
How does that-
enter-
how-
You have to,
I don't know, Robert.
you got a person, you got a motion second for that 0, so you gotta do that vote first.
And if we do that vote, then it's over.
Yeah.
I don't believe so. I think we can have a motion to amend, because the 0 was the number we were presented. And it was moved.
Robert's
Check.
rules, I think, would be, you could make a motion for a friendly amendment, but the person who made the motion the first time, which would be Ruben, would have to agree to that friendly amendment. That's how we've done it with other boards I've been on.
Yeah, Bob made the motion. No.
Well, for the budget committee, it was Ruben, yeah, so if someone wanted to make a friendly amendment is what it's been called. They could do that, but it's up to Ruben and Ruben alone whether or not he would accept that. And if he accepts it, then that's what this committee would vote on, the budget committee would vote on.
It's a lot of pressure, but I'm gonna stand where I am.
I figured as much, which is why I was pointing all of this out. But I'm still gonna make a motion for a friendly amendment that we adjust it to fund them at $10,000. Will you accept that friendly amendment?
Well, I am not an expert on Robert's Rules of Order.
Well, I'm
but-
not an expert, I just know that one.
But in the past, we have amended numbers and the committee votes on the amendment. And then if it passes, then we discuss that amendment.
Pam's
Pam's got her hands up.
Pam,
You can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the past, I think the initial motion would be, I'll counter offer you $10,000, but the motion that's standing right now
Is
is.
zero.
I think you have to vote
So you
Ruben's
have to
motion.
vote on.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Val, I still.
okay, no,
I think if
I'm
it
not
doesn't
in-
pass, then you get to negotiate.
Yeah, if his doesn't pass, then you've got.
okay, that's not my recollection, but anyways, I'm fine with doing it that way if everyone agrees. So we could vote on 0. Any other discussion? All those in favor for 0? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2, 3. I guess we have 0.
We have one member of the audience. You've never said a word, Ben.
Put me under a lot of pressure, yes.
Oh, that's okay.
You're among.
You don't have to come up with a word right now.
You don't have to say a word.
So with that said, any other community service agency you want to discuss?
Have 91.8.
Oh, sorry. 91.8.
Want me to read them or you're all set? Go ahead.
I think the only one that changed is LCTV, right?
See, I have a question. I don't know if it's in this. We had flags on flagpoles around town.
Has nothing to do with the
Is
budget.
that totally out of the budget?
That's
Okay.
nothing that was ever in the budget.
All right, I remember
That was
discussing it in the
private, that was
past.
private,
Okay,
that was private funding.
Would you like a motion, Mr. Chairman, for the 21 years? Sure.
right.
Yeah, I know
Right, that's what that is.
91,800 for community service.
That was private funding.
Move the second with 91,800. Any more discussion? The overall number, I'm gonna vote no on this because my feelings on what it is we talked about it, but all in favor? Opposed? 2. 2.
Okay, we get 91,800 as a total for community services agencies. You have a motion on that? Thanks, Scott. Anyone second?
You can have it.
All right, get credit for that
So
one. Discussion.
I just want to make sure we're clear. We're still listing these individually on the. Okay,
Wait, I'm sorry, would we be listing individually the money for LCTV?
yes,
Yeah.
But it would be 0, right?
right.
Okay.
What happens if people say no to 0?
The only one that we can't change is the Midcoast Conservancy,
They don't
correct?
ever say
Because
no.
that's a petition.
But last year we listed the agencies individually. That's what
Right.
you want again.
Yeah.
That's why I was just asking.
And with the individual votes for.
Okay,
Yeah.
That is so, sorry.
so they're listing the individual votes, not the total vote.
Why would you list an individual
Because
thing for something you're not funding?
No, no, what I'm saying,
We're gonna put on the, we're gonna also be putting on what their initial request was, and what we change it to.
I'm not sure you have to vote the full number. That's my point.
Oh, the 91,800, because
But
we
you've already
already voted
done
for
the
each one
individual ones.
individually.
Right.
And that's what's gonna appear on the,
Gotcha.
I only asked for it for continuity and just.
oh, okay.
This is a department. Just like
But
all
the
other
problem
department
is-
members. This is the.
You don't have to do
service and
91E
social
on
service.
here. It's gonna appear individually.
But she wants the vote.
I
As,
don't mind taking the vote, but just it won't appear on the ballot.
No, that what will appear on the ballot is the individual vote
Votes.
for
I'm just-
the table.
Okay.
But this vote that's.
just wanted everybody to
Right,
understand that.
now, I mean, we may vote on it, but it's not gonna be on the ballot.
You're voting on the grand total of,
Total, yes.
yes, but it's not, a grand total won't appear on the.
And so therefore, the grand total vote will not appear on the ballot.
Right.
Is that same as true
Okay.
for the social services agencies as well? So we voted on that, but that, okay, okay.
We can take agreement. So maybe you don't have to vote on it then.
But we're almost done.
Yeah, does the budget committee feel like voting on this?
What are we voting on?
On
Well,
the
we're voting on something
91
that doesn't really matter anymore.
On June
91,800.
9:30.
I will be voting no, only because I don't approve of the vote. for LCC.
Right.
But I support
Um,
everything else that's on here.
Oh, well, how about all those in favor of 91,800? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 5, okay. All those opposed? 2. And 2 absent, so that muddies the water.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't, it was, you really didn't have to vote
Yeah.
because you voted individually.
Yeah.
Right,
So much extra time tonight.
That we don't want any extra votes in there.
okay.
Everyone's such a good time.
Planning development, did we do that one already?
We did not.
Planning and development. This is our code enforcement officer. He works 36 hours. This is also our planner, Maximilian, worth $1 billion. He comes in under professional services.
Is he shared with?
Max is a actual, he comes from, I forget what they call it now, McCog, Mid-Coast Council of Governments. We have him 2 days a week
Okay. As a contract?
as a contract.
Oh.
Mhm.
So what else is in?
And it's not just him, it's his, he is physically here though, 2 days a week, but we avail ourselves of all of their services.
But his fee is included in this other professional services lump
Correct.
sum of 64,150. Okay. What else is included in that?
I believe also their actual, our fee to belong to McCog. It's based on a formula of our population, so we pay a fee to belong to McCog, and then we also pay for services. And sometimes other professional services could be their legal fees. When we had a very long code enforcement issue that was paid out of other professional services, which is why last year the actual was much higher. And that money was, we prevailed in court, and that money that we utilized will cover all of our attorney's fees, and the fines are then, that goes to the general fund.
We get reimbursement for him from the county.
No. We don't get reimbursed for any services that we provide that the county also provides. So we don't get reimbursed for the police department, although we don't use the sheriff's department. No. The county has their own planning, and they handle planning for most of the county. And they don't dedicate, and I, just to point out, I think that night we pointed out how much, I know Max in his one presentation that he did before the select board pointed out how much money. We had received, and I did that during the revenue, I think.
Oh, I mean, I'm not questioning, he definitely, that position definitely values.
It's expensive not to have that.
I would just, I thought that maybe, for some reason I was thinking it was like
No, we don't get reimbursed.
Yeah, there's a history here. I mean, we used to hire a planner and when it was on our payroll.
right.
And it was found that this was far more economical to do it this way.
Yeah, more
Now, yeah, I mean, salaries have gone up, but the cost of hiring a planner would be far greater than this, I believe, than what we're paying now.
You probably get the same.
And it wouldn't get the same quality or the backup from the get.
McCog. They changed their name.
Thank you.
Macabre.
McCog.
They really need a new
Mid-Coast
acronym.
Community, Mid-Coast Council of Governments. And the other increase was for the web-based software program, the iWork that we're using for managing code enforcement permits and licensing. We used to have a homemade written computer program that we went to the iWorks, and I will tell you that when Mark was out for December, I was processing permits, and it was a very intuitive program and worth every penny.
Training and education material.
Correct.
It's 1,700 on there. It's that. I know last year we bumped it up because we got a new
Correct.
plan. We had a
If you would like to,
CEO and he be fully trained, or is there gonna be need that much education for them?
no, we can take that down. I think that's a great find.
Down to 700.
We had it up high because
Mhm.
new code enforcement was going to a lot of classes. Now it's gone up.
Make a motion to reduce training and education down to 700 from 17. If we don't need it.
I don't think you have to go and look
No.
at your bottom.
Right,
dollar.
okay, so,
Yeah, bottom number.
Yeah.
So you're taking $1,000 off.
So also on the travel and meeting expenses, just below that. Oh, no, I was looking at the total, but never mind.
I think it's
You are
zero
blessed.
because I think he's using the shellfish.
He's using the shellfish truck,
So,
but I don't know about meeting expenses.
And he also doesn't put in for mileage.
He doesn't.
He's that kind of a soul.
oh,
He does have a soul. Yeah.
I'm told.
I thought you said kind of a soul. He's got a kind soul.
As long as he's not floundering.
8:40, we're all feeling a little punchy at this point.
Oh, definitely.
I get that.
If you want to cut
It
that
fell
down
flat.
a little more, that's fine too.
Yeah, I was looking at the 4,900
Oh,
and that's
No,
the
that's
total.
total.
You were looking at the
Yeah.
wrong number, yeah.
Yeah.
that would be down to 39.
But the new total is what, 171,095,
Mhm.
unless we cut anything else.
Get rid of the mileage?
No.
No.
I just say that because God forbid, we have to have a new CEO at some point. Somebody might, and
I'll make a motion for the select board to do 171,095 for planning and development.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? 5-0.
171,095 is the new number for planning and development. We have a motion from the budget
So
committee.
moved.
Yep.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Page 51, property liability insurance. Nothing to do with that, right?
No.
Oh, you want to up it? Because the other night I was driving a fire truck. One of our 30-year-old fire trucks. One of the latches on one of the cabinets let loose. And a very heavy object fell out of it. And if that had happened outside of the driveway here on the highway and it bounced up and into somebody's car and created some sort of accident, you would have needed all of that insurance. And so.
And no one gets hurt.
No, fortunately, my ego a little bit.
Pre-trip inspection.
It was a pre-trip inspection. It just, anyway, it doesn't matter, but the point of. the
Has
point
it
I'm
been
trying to
fixed?
make-
I didn't hear about it, so.
The point I'm trying to make is when John gets up, I spent a long time as a mechanic managing yachts. And John gets up and talks about engines and the life of the engines on our vehicles and stuff. He's right. And he's right about the suspensions and things for the most part. But these trucks are incredibly complicated. There's a lot of systems in the trucks that are 30 years old. And I'm not pushing for a truck because by the time, if you ordered that truck tonight, by the time you get it, I'm gonna be 80 years old and retired. Okay, so it's not for me, but you know, when something like that happens, it's kind of a shock to your system, you know, because not only would the town of Waldoboro be in some sort of grief about that, but as the driver, so would I. And that doesn't make me real comfortable. So don't cheat on your insurance.
Right, could that be arguably negligence? I mean, if somebody has been on the public road.
We are
that
going
had
down
happened,
So we
We're
are,
going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We are covered with MMA's life.
Yeah, but that's what we got a regular check, yeah.
Sorry. Retract the question.
I move 69,537 for our property liability insurance.
Second.
Just so everybody knows, every month, we go through everything on those trucks
You guys are incredible.
and make sure that it's functioning properly.
But I'll double check that latch next time.
We had a class last night and we showed everybody about it because if you don't get it just right, because it's not working the way it's supposed to, it could happen again. you know.
It's a great reaction.
Could I ask a question for you, but, the 2024 actual was 77,006 and it dropped to 65,600. Why the decrease in, I'm happy about it, but why the decrease in the?
We must have a claim, right?
That's $12,000, so.
the budget from 2024 to actual.
No, I'm looking at but you asked for 2024. In 2024, the budget, oh, I see, never mind, I'm just looking at the wrong number. Well, actually, no, so that 77,000, is that because there was a claim?
Look it up.
Look it up.
Must have been a deductible.
Hmm.
I have a feeling it was that pollution insurance that we talked about, but I just wanna,
I mean,
yeah, it was the Sylvania. It was a 3-year
Right.
policy that we bought, so the reason it was more was, we didn't know what it was gonna cost.
Mhm.
And such a particular insurance, it was almost.
Or it was charged to that line when the other line wasn't charged.
okay,
In 2024.
2024, yeah.
Yeah, it was $16,660, so that's why it was more than anticipated.
thank you.
Okay, we move second on the select board. All in favor? 5-0.
Okay, 69,537 is the magic number here for property liability insurance.
Oh, I guess I'll move.
Oh, right.
Okay, gotta be quicker. Brendan. Any more discussion? All those in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay.
Moving on, look at us go. County tax, we have that?
No,
We don't have that.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, you do?
It's
but you don't vote on it.
You don't vote on it, I can tell you now, if you're curious. You don't wanna know, fine. It'll be a mystery to you. Other people. wanna know.
That might open up more discussions, right?
Do we really wanna know? It went up, it's currently 934,174.
Almost 50 grand.
What was the percentage increase?
I don't know that, good question. 50,000 was the dollar increase.
Oh, okay.
Did you say it was 934?
934, 174. No,
We have no idea what's. It was like.
no, but we've been estimating 5% because that's what I've been seeing. I don't have it yet.
We want to go into the overlay and all that right now?
You don't go into the overlay now.
No, that's right, we don't do that yet. At services, 55, 855.
And we have to do EMS, fire and police because they've had fuel oil in it. Or we can save that for another night.
Debt services. $145, $493.
This is cast and
Stone.
stone. We don't really,
Not an option.
it's not an option, guys.
What did the town? Prior to taking care of last year? Yes, it was.
No, that's why it's zero.
I move 145, 493 from debt services. All in favor?
Just so you know, it's a very low debt service for a town with our size of a budget.
Yes.
That includes the second.
Okay, did you vote?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And that was 145, 493.
Sure.
You have a motion. Ruben, would you like?
Sure.
Okay,
Second.
second, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Up to you. You have other financing issues to do and you can go through EMS, fire and police. Well, I just gotta take the fuel oil out of there. Or if you
Do you want to wait for other service, the other?
Only to do other it would make sense to do other last, because if we needed to go look at capital again, that would affect the total for other.
Okay, let's go back to EMS, let's go back to fire first, I don't want to do.
It's the 50/20 line item. And Peg will give you the new number. I'm sorry, which line item? Page
Page
22,
20.
50/20, the heating oil.
Half. I can scroll to the line that I need to scroll to, so the new number is $966. For 50/20,
966?
yes,
What does that do to the bottom line?
that brings it to. $302,594.
And since we're on fire, I thought of something else. That we have in the capital plan that I've talked to. The fire department can be buying that. Cruiser. To make it a fire chief truck vehicle. And we're paying him $2,500 a mile, so he's using his own vehicle. So won't, part of that. Next year. You ride in a vehicle, so you won't need mileage.
My gas.
Huh?
Somebody's paying for gas.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna be able to take 2,500 out, because there's gonna be some sort of vehicle expense
Well, we
associated with it.
typically,
That'd be in his, that'd be in the. That'd be in his operating for his. That's his trucks, it's like fire truck.
The reimbursement usually is more than gas. It's wear and tear on the car too,
Yeah.
but yeah, so.
so we've always had $400 in that line item. I don't know if you want to keep like 400 in there. Was
Which
that
part?
2,900 wasn't always just, I think you added the 2,500 in, so just take out the 2,500.
Which line item? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
2075,
What line on, if we put that?
2075.
I wouldn't take out 25.
Right.
Well, I wasn't sure what you were doing.
For three quarters. Because the first quarter, and vehicles not gonna come to them in the first quarter,
Okay.
they gotta get structure painted.
Half of it.
I'm sorry, is this the travel and meeting expenses?
Yes,
on your-
2075. That's where his reimbursement for his mileage
Okay.
is. That was new last year.
So where will the operating expense for the new car come out of?
Under vehicle maintenance
Diesel and
and gasoline.
gasoline.
Gets a vehicle.
Half of it, take care of it.
All right, reduce that down to 1,450, is that okay?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I couldn't quite.
14, instead of 2,900, 1,450.
Okay.
Line item 20-70.
Gotcha. 1450, you said, right?
Yes.
That would make his total.
Don't we have to increase gasoline and maintenance accordingly?
Well, if you look at what they've used in the past,
We always had plenty budgeted for it.
Yeah, we've got 3,800 budgeted, and we only used 25 so far this year.
So you're talking like. Just between the fire truck and the SUV, they're gonna be using that much.
That's diesel.
That's what I'm saying, he's not gonna use that much.
Except 301, 144.
I concur.
301, 144, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think the chief would have an issue with that.
I moved the new fire service number to 301, 144. Second. Moved and seconded, any more discussion? All in favor?
301. Oop. I'm sorry, did you have someone opposed?
No.
Okay. All right, 301, 144 is the total for fire services. We have a motion on that.
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Jan. So this is a 6-year-old cruiser that the fire department is gonna get.
Yes.
Worked well with the EMS.
Just like the EMS is 6 or 8 year old.
Right.
I was actually wasn't that old. Yeah, it was older than that,
It was older than that.
older than that. Their EMS fly car.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Opposed? Abstain. Okay.
Number are we?
Yeah.
Page 24.
It's actually page 26, 5020.
Number is 1,794.
Sound good?
We got new total to. Let's all ask about one something else.
Revenue total is 1,391,994. $897.
What was that?
$1,391,897.
$1,391,897.
Second.
Select board, any more discussion, all in favor?
What's that?
1794, yeah. And find the numbers out.
Yep, I get that. I'm sorry, I was not paying attention. Did you guys vote yet?
Yeah, I did.
Trying to keep up with all numbers. Okay, 1,391,897.
So move.
Thank you, Seth. Anyone? Ruben. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
EMS,
That number is 5020 again,
Page 17.
page 17, I'm sorry. The bewitching hour. I'm sorry, what's the number? What's the 17, 5020? Heating oil. Oh. Why am I not finding it? Hold on.
That changed from 5520 to 1984. Yeah, you know. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong line.
I'm looking at the gallons.
I'm sorry. 2260.
Goes 2260.
Well, that's what's in my head. Heating oil. I don't know, Julie, this doesn't look right, but it says 966.
No, that's not right. So how many gallons? What's the,
1725.
so 1,725 gallons times,
Or
The 966 was for fire.
that
was-
you have a calculation in here. It's that times the 14%.
are you in fire or are you in EMS?
That is a good question.
Yeah, because the 966 was the new amount for the
Yeah,
fire.
I think I did. Sorry. Remember.
No, you're not.
Okay, oh, that looks better. $3,534. Sorry,
It's still moving.
2760 is half of 5520, right? And it's getting late. What you have highlighted, I'm sorry, it's the wrong lines highlighted. 1,794.
What? That's still not half.
Still not half.
All right, hold on.
Third time's a charm.
Let me do this one more
Oh,
time.
four times a charm. Okay.
Okay, and then police.
Yeah, she's in police.
I'll make sure I'm in the right department. Electricity cam.
don't hit save.
I'm
Oh, I'm sorry,
We're in, yeah, they're in EMS.
sorry.
Sorry about it.
Okay, that's what we're
I could do that. in my-
Yeah, she's been here since 8 o'clock.
Okay, sorry. 2,760.
Say it again.
2760.
Yeah, 2760. Oh,
60.
Rate the new total to. I bet.
Wow. I have 2,097,322.
Did you say 322?
Yes.
2 million.
9 million.
097.
322.
I move 2,097,322. Second, the new number for EMS service. Any more discussion on the select board, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? 3, no, 4.
I don't think. Nothing, okay.
Wait, I got 5-0. Where did you go?
4-1.
4-1.
4-1. 4-1. Abden.
Okay,
That's stated.
so we've got 2,097,322.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this new number? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That I move, anyone,
Can I say something? Frank?
Yes.
I just want everybody to be clear that that incident with the truck did not happen on the highway. Thank God.
9:00, 2100, we're starting to get all goofy. So I would recommend, I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn from the evening. We still have a few more items to take care of.
I have something in EMS that I voted against.
Which could include going through and sharpening our pencils a little bit, figure out where we are.
My question is, do you want any department heads here?
Like the EMS. I think public works as well.
For the, okay,
For the paving.
okay.
Do we need them for that?
Yeah, we can, we can.
March 31st, 6 o'clock.
Does anybody else want any other department heads? Not that it makes them, I don't. It's not like we're calling them on the carpet, but just does anybody else want anybody else?
Can we explain what we're doing? What the thought is, because we're looking at some of these other numbers of where we can come a little bit more. Trying to get our. Head down.
I was looking at the pay raises and stuff like that.
Why don't we just,
Yeah, let's do that on Monday.
let's just do that on Monday, because we're 9:04, 9:05, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean. What?
That's what we got a motion to adjourn.
No, I always forget.
Oh, we want to hang around all night. So just getting fun. Does anyone care to adjourn? Do we have a motion? Ah, we have a second. Gotta have a second, right? Okay, any thirds, fourths, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So 6 o'clock on Monday.
Select board.
Yes.
So moved.